We're ready.
Recording in progress.
All right, we're going to go ahead and call the meeting of the Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District Board to order. Roll call, please.
Director Sailors.
Present.
Gould.
Here.
Director Wood.
Here.
Director Rice.
Here.
Director Costa.
Here.
Director Weber.
Here.
Director Stark.
Here.
Director Clark.
Here.
Director Jones.
Here.
Great, all are present.
Thank you very much. Director Rice, will you lead us in the pledge of the flag?
Ready, begin. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Director. So we have the Metro Cable announcement. This meeting of the Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District is recorded. The recording will be cablecast on Metro Cable Channel 14 and the Local Government Affairs Channel. All information about tonight's meeting and its recordings are in the agenda packet. With that, let's go to public comment. So public opportunity to discuss matters of public interest within the district's jurisdiction, including items on or not on the agenda. Do we have any public comment?
I have no speaker cards. On Zoom, if you'd like to make a public comment, please use the raise your hand feature. No public comments, thank you.
All right, thank you. That brings us to consent items. Do we have any questions or comments on the consent items?
Mr. Chair, I'd move the consent calendar.
We have a first and a second from Director Clark.
Great.
Roll call, please.
Director Sailors.
Aye.
Director Gould.
Aye.
Director Wood.
Aye.
Director Stark. Director Clark. Director Jones. Director Rice.
Aye.
Director Weber.
Aye.
President Costa.
Aye.
Thank you, motion passes.
Thank you. That brings us to our presentation items, and we're going to make a slight adjustment. We're going to move the number 4 item up, so that's EMS Excellence. And we have Assistant Chief Renicki. Oh, look at that. Good evening.
Good evening, President Costa, board members, Chief House, members of the public, colleagues and guests. Thank you for allowing me to take some time here. Let me zoom in on this picture. Tonight we're here to honor Captain Aaron Wynn and his wife Jacqueline, who I'm going to ask to come forward also with us, and their son Emmett. So Captain Wynn and his family on August 17th, 2025, were attending the Roseville Home and Garden Show. And they were there enjoying themselves, and they noticed a gentleman in distress. This gentleman couldn't have been in a better place and time to have the Wynn family there, because they immediately saw him go down. They rushed over and initiated high-quality CPR, initiated the 911 process and the chain of survival to get resources coming. While performing CPR, the patient had a return of spontaneous circulation and ultimately had a full recovery. This is a testament to the men and women at Metro Fire and this profession and career that we have, and the training that we acquire and we invest so much time and energy into, not only as a captain with Metro Fire, but also as a physician with Dr. Wynn. It carries with us no matter where we are. A home garden show, there with their son. And as you can see in the picture, we were fortunate enough to honor the Wynn family and the survivor with his wife and daughter. And we gathered at Station 54. This was about 6-8 weeks ago. And the reason why we're here tonight, however, is we submitted an application or a nomination for Captain Wynn to the state EMSA. And of 175 nominations, Captain Wynn is the recipient of the Clinical Excellence Award in the state of California. So really high achievement, really exciting, and we wanted to bring the Wynns here today just to honor and celebrate them for being who they are and serving at a random Sunday or a random day at the Home and Garden Show. And again, these are the types of stories that really touch our heart, and the emotion and the connection on that day at Station 54 was remarkable. So with that said, I'd like to turn the mic over to the Winds if they have any comments they'd like to share.
Emma, you have anything you want to say? No, we were just really happy that we were there. It was just a weird event. It was honestly, it was because of him. He went to, we were eating behind the food trucks, and he went to go unplug all the electrical to the food trucks. So she raced after him, and then she had good situational awareness and noticed someone was kind of in distress on the grass. And then I'm watching her veer off. I'm like, hey, still gonna pull all the electricity out. So I run over to grab him, and then I see what she had saw, and we went over there, and we were there to feel his last pulse and initiate CPR, and we got Rosk, like he said, and he was talking by the time we did pass over to Roseville. So, yeah,
Fantastic.
so, yeah.
Captain, I have a question. What's it like to have direct medical control all the time?
Me have direct medical control?
No.
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah. I was also just going to say it was really cool because he also went on to have surgery that saved his life. He was supposed to have it in like a few weeks, and he had it later that day, and he lives and he's back at work. He works for like SAC PD
Yeah,
or
he's
something.
retired CHP officer, and he
But
does,
still working,
yeah,
yeah.
in Newton work or something, yeah.
Wow.
So thank you for your time, allowing us to highlight the Wynn family. We're so grateful for that they were able to join us as they're expecting their second here soon, and we were able to make it here just in time. So thank you, Bob, and congratulations.
Thank you. Again, thank you.
Yeah.
His son had situational awareness.
His life's about to change. Second one shows.
He's having a fun time. All right, that takes us to our next item. So post-employment benefits, actuarial evaluation and fiscal year. Chief Financial Officer Dave O'Toole.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chair, board members, Chief House, colleagues, members of the public. Dave O'Toole, your Chief Financial Officer. For this item, I'll be introducing the district's actuary, Michael Papendike, who will be appearing virtually. Michael is from the actuarial firm McLeod Watts, and this firm analyzes the sufficiency and accuracy of the district's plan to reduce long-term other post-employment benefit expenses. OPEBs are basically all retirement benefits other than your pension, mainly healthcare costs. And then the district must file certain biennial accounting reports and determine if the benefits will be sufficiently funded and available when needed. And the OPEB actuarial valuation for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026 provides that funding determination and will now be presented for your review. And I'll turn it over to Michael, virtual.
Okay. All right. Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Michael Papendike, and I'm with McLeod Watts. And let me see if I can get my screen shared for the presentation. Okay. All right. I think that should be good. All right. So today I'll be providing a brief overview, as Dave mentioned, of the district's updated OPEB valuation results and the projected funding contributions for the next few years. So this report was prepared for three primary purposes. One, to update the district's OPEB liabilities as of June 30th, 2025. It was also to provide the GASB 75 accounting information, and then also to develop updated funding information for the OPEB program. So this valuation includes two kinds of subsidies that we look at. One is the explicit subsidy, and the other, what we call an implicit subsidy associated with the district's retiree healthcare program. The explicit subsidy is what we call the portion of the retiree premiums that are subsidized by the district. The implicit subsidy, that represents the additional value that retirees receive because retiree premiums are expected to be lower than the overall claims costs incurred by those retirees. And both components are required to be included under the accounting standards of GASB. This slide summarizes the district's funded status from an accounting perspective over the last 3 fiscal years. The district established an OPEB trust in 2012 to begin setting aside assets to help fund retiree healthcare liabilities. As of fiscal year end 2026, the total OPEB liability was approximately $336 million. The trust assets in that middle column were approximately $102 million, and the resulting net OPEB liability, the difference between those two, is approximately $234 million. Looking at the change over this 2-year period, the net OPEB liability increased from approximately $227 million in 2024 to approximately $234 million, which was an approximately $7 million increase overall. The primary driver of these increases were higher than anticipated medical cost increases. However, those increases were partially offset by two things. One, the investment returns being higher than expected over this 2-year period. And we also had an increase in our assumed discount rate for the valuation. So this slide will summarize what we call the actuarially determined contributions, or ADCs. The ADC is an actuarial funding benchmark, which is intended to measure the contribution needed to systematically fund benefits over time. And the ADC includes both the explicit and the implicit subsidy portions of the liability. The fiscal year 2026 ADC in this first column that I'll show was based on our last full valuation 2 years ago in 2023, and the updated ADCs for fiscal years 2027 and 2028 are based on the most recent 2025 valuation results. And these and the updated valuation results include the same kind of changes in liability that I discussed on the prior slide for the accounting results. And so the total ADCs that we show here represent the sum of the normal cost, which is the value of the benefits earned by active employees during the fiscal year. It includes an amortization payment on the overall unfunded level and an interest adjustment to the end of the fiscal year. I'm also showing here an illustration of the expected district contributions for each of these 3 fiscal years that will go towards satisfying these ADCs. These contributions consist of 3 items: the implicit subsidy contribution, district paid retiree premiums, and any cash contributions to the OPEB trust. The fiscal year 2026 trust contribution shown is based off of the amount that's currently budgeted by the district. And then for fiscal years 2027 and 2028, the contributions shown are those needed to satisfy the funding policy contributions, which I'll describe a little bit later in the presentation. And the trust contributions shown here do result in a shortfall relative to the ADC each year, shown here. Sorry. So there's a shortfall for each year in the next 3 fiscal years shown. So on this slide, this is the last section. These slides represent what we call the funding policy contributions, or FPCs. And these funding policy contributions, unlike the ADCs I just showed, these projections only look at the explicit subsidy portion of the liability. So we don't look at the implicit subsidy portion like we were with the ADCs. So under this approach, the projected funding policy contributions range from $20.8 million in the current fiscal year to 23.8 million in the fiscal year 2028. And the expected district contributions are the same as what I was showing on the ADC slide, but we don't include the implicit subsidy contribution amount. So the illustrated trust contributions result in a shortfall relative to the FPC for the current fiscal year, but these $9 million contributions to the trust for fiscal year 27 and 28 are set so that there are no shortfalls for the FPCs for those years. And shown at the very bottom are going to be the changes in the trust contributions over the amount from the prior year. And so what we're illustrating is that an increase of about 5 million would be needed between the current fiscal year and fiscal year 2027 to be able to contribute to the full FPC. And so if future trust contributions are lower than these projected amounts shown, the effect of that would be that future valuations generally would show higher unfunded liabilities and higher future contribution benchmarks. And so that concludes the slides I have prepared. And so I'd be happy to answer any questions that anyone has for me.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the board?
No, sir.
All right, no questions. Thank you for taking the time and keeping us informed. Dave, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
All right, we'll move on to Metro Fire Deployment Study. And this is in regards to Folsom Fire Department operational changes. And we have Chief Development Officer Jeff Fry and Deputy Chief Wagaman. Welcome.
Thank you. Excited to talk about this topic. A little bit of an introduction. Bear with us. This is a bit of an experiment related to the 2026 Board Strategic Plan and working with the Executive Committee where we've prioritized communications and for my project, board specifically. And through that, we've identified the idea of an emerging trend and the board needing awareness when it comes to a number of types or ideas that may come across our desks. So we took this concept to the Executive Committee. They said, please take it to the full board. And so we're going to test it out tonight and see what better looks like.
Fantastic. Thank you.
So with that, we're going to bounce around a little bit. Before we jump into the topic, I do want to recognize Mr. Brian Whiteman, City Manager from Folsom. Excited to have him here as we've been working and having those conversations. And we're glad he's here for this topic.
Yeah. Thank you for being here.
So I'll jump right into the presentation here. Again, it's kind of that dynamic situation that we were just talking about in Executive Committee. Something as easy of a neighboring partner making some changes into deployment, where we may be looking at also making deployment changes as a result, may be simple as an operational decision. But beyond that, there are interagency relations issues. There are political issues that the board want to consider. So we're going to kind of bounce around. The presentation was really built around a very specific question Chief Rudnicki asked us in planning and development, trying to use data to get to a better decision-making process. And then we've added on some automatic aid numbers for you all to consider per Director Gould's request. So we're going to bounce around a little bit and talk you all through this.
Thank you, Jeff. Good evening, directors. So before we get started, I know that all the board of directors are intimately familiar with automatic aid. However, I'm not sure that the public watching today fully understands what automatic aid is. So with that, just a brief description. Automatic aid is just a prearranged reciprocal response agreement between two fire districts, two fire departments. This is a pretty unique situation for Sacramento County because we have roughly 10 fire agencies that cooperate respectfully with each other under an automatic aid agreement with 4 core agencies, and that is Metro Fire, Sacramento City Fire Department, Consumnes Fire, and Folsom Fire Department. And to make that even more interesting, we all operate under a boundary drop system. So what that simply means for our public is that when a 911 call comes in, we send a unit. It doesn't matter what agency it's from. If we do not have a unit available, we send the next closest. So that ensures that when the public calls 911, they're always getting a response. In most cases, we respond to our own calls. In some cases, when the system gets busy, we do rely on outside agencies to provide some assistance for us and vice versa. That's that reciprocating piece. So when we do a deeper dive into the automatic aid, responses both to and from the Folsom Fire Department between 2024 and 2025. Metro Fire responded to Folsom in 2024 802 times. Folsom responded to Metro in 2024 1,063 times. That was roughly 32% more aid received from Folsom Fire Department than we provided in return. Now in 2025, the pendulum swung the other way, and that Metro Fire responded to Folsom 1,061 times. In return, Folsom provided 819 calls for service in Metro's jurisdiction, and that equates to 23% more aid given than received. So the pendulum swung 32%, then the next year was 23%, with the goal to try to keep that as even as possible so we reciprocate these services pretty well balanced. With that, with this respective time frame, the fire responses for both agencies were pretty flat. They both decreased. The rescue calls as well as hazmat calls were also pretty flat, and we saw a decrease for both agencies. But what we saw increase in 2025 was medical aids into the city of Folsom and a reduction in medical aids provided to Metro Fire from Folsom. And this was primarily because of some challenges with staffing that Folsom had during that time frame in staffing Medic 36. We will do a little bit deeper dive as we progress through this presentation this evening, so I can show you some more relevant information with respect to first quarter in 2026. Yes, President Costa.
All right, quick question just to ground me here. I just want to make sure I understand. So response, what does response look like? Is it just on scene? Is it providing? Okay.
No. So a response would be a 911 call comes in, we dispatch a resource, and they go en route. They don't necessarily have to arrive on scene. In fact, some of these calls, they never arrived on scene, and that goes for both agencies.
Okay.
If we do a deeper dive, I'm sure we could tell you exactly how many resources arrived on specific calls, but at the end of the day, it is still an incident that an agency responds to, right? So that is a call for service. It does attach some time to their unit availability. So we have to take that into consideration.
Perfect. Thank you. Sorry, really quick, I'll just check. Any questions, any other questions from the board? Okay. Sorry about that. Thank you.
Okay.
So this gets into the question I alluded to earlier, where Chief Rudnicki was aware of some medic deployment changes, and he asked Planning and Development to dig into some data proactively and try to estimate what we think that impact and that change in deployment on the Folsom would have on Metro Fire. So this is really built to educate staff, but it's informational. So we'll move forward a little bit quicker than we otherwise would, but it's something for you all to be aware. So the first thing that we're trying to do is demonstrate the difference between how our first responders, engines and trucks, are pretty isolated and concentric into a first due area. And then really, if they're called out of the first due, hopefully as limited as possible, it might be for a simultaneous call or a working fire. And the data shows you that. When we think about medic deployment, it's really almost battalion-based because they're running from call to call and transporting. You can see where they tend to respond to, again, can be over a 5 or 6 first due. So all we're trying to say here is we really do focus on keeping engines and trucks into that 4-minute response, but we do look at 8 to 10 minutes for our ambulance system. So again, we are trying to figure out what are our ambulances in the right place, are our stations on the right place, so we can do that by modeling it, I'll show you that in a second. What we were very interested in for this study is looking at the transitions that were happening on the Folsom border. Very specifically to us, the automatic response that Chief was just talking about, Medic 36 or Station 36 does have a first-year response on our side of the border. And with the transition from Medic 36 away from that border to 35, that's what we were really trying to capture. Yes, they did make some additional changes to the medic response. It didn't have a material effect on Metro Fire side. So this map demonstrates that. So we used the, I believe it's the 10-minute response here, where we map in red the 10-minute deployment area from stations on the Folsom side of the border. We use the blue to map our response area in Battalion 13 and 14 on our side of the border. And then we demonstrate there with the movement away from Station 36, what does that do from our response area? And what this demonstrates is essentially we are now in a position where Folsom primarily runs their calls and we run our calls. That's the effect of the change there. So what does that mean in numbers? I think this is what, again, Chief Rudnicki was asking us for. What we expect, and we saw this a little bit at the end of last year when this change was coming, is that Metro Fire will run 1.7, we'll have 1.7 more responses in our own jurisdiction to our own call, where previously Folsom Medic 36 was helping. Just to be clear, that is a response, that is not a transport. If we apply those numbers, that gets us to around 1 transport per day. And then there's no material changes for the rest of the deployment changes. The next question that we are asked to study is, okay, do we need to adjust? We have that 1.7 call difference. And I think Director Rice brought this up last year when we were talking about the difference. He was talking about truck coverage, the difference between distribution, the time in between stations, and the concentration of the risk in the calls. So we start with the distribution, but then we have this weighted factor of where is the need, and we try to move resources to that need. So this heat map demonstrates that our medical response need is on the west side of Battalion 13, and the call volume related to EMS is a little bit lighter as we move to the Folsom border. So this is where our Battalion 13 ambulances are currently located, and you can see we have pretty good coverage. This is the distribution question. And then ultimately, as we presented this to Chief Rudnicki, he asked us to consider 2 options. And those options are presented here for you, and I will turn this over to Chief Mitchell.
Thanks, Jeff. So in looking at in totality, and you heard about the battalion-based medic response and where the concentration of the call is versus the distribution of the actual units. Based off of all the information, we came down with these 2 options. It's either maintain our existing coverage or deployment with our ambulance locations, which is about the concentration of calls, which is, you saw the heat map. And then the option 2 was if we were to shift an AMR unit over towards the east to address the distribution piece. The fact of that isn't on here that we also need to consider is our time on task, how often are our ambulances associated with an incident. And if you look at that time on task percentage, generally we want to be at 30 to 40% when we talk about an ambulance. That's the board adopted policy for what is acceptable. If you look at our time on tasks in the Battalion 13 units, inclusive of our FDMs, our AMR units, and our MMPs, the units on the eastern side of, or I'm sorry, the western side of the battalion where the heat map showed the call concentration are at or above the standard. They can go as high as 50% if it's an AMR unit, which is not necessarily a bad thing because they're on for 12 hours, but we see the time on task on that western side very high. If you look at time on task on the eastern side, over in the near the area of the Folsom border, we have some acceptable and even areas where we can increase our time on task and still be acceptable down in the 26% range. So actually below the where we consider it to be a healthy or a standard response. And so based off those 2 options that you see there and considering all of those factors with time on task, we went with option 1. meaning we maintain our battalion level coverage with our current ambulance deployment, knowing that our concentration numbers to the west are where our resources are going to be pulled to, but it also maintains our ability to continue to respond to those additional 1.7 calls or one more transport per day. That was the decision we made. And thanks, Chief Rudnicki, for bringing that question forward.
Sorry, Chief. I just want to check with the board before you move on. Any questions, Director
I have a
Gould?
quick question. Chief Mitchell, on that concentration of calls, east versus west. I don't know if that's how you guys talk about it, but east versus west. Does the data capture the amount of times that the east travels to the west to back up?
Not on the,
Where you're changing deployment because of the demand on the system? Is that captured in that unit hour utilization?
it is when they're on an incident. So when we do a dispatch, the unit hour utilization shows because they're on a call. The travel time, the response, the arrival, and the transport are all part of that.
What happens if they're not on a call but moving in that direction?
So that would not be associated with a time on task because they're not currently assigned to a call. We don't, just for reference, in the past, we would move ambulances up as we saw that. We don't do that anymore because we saw, you know, it was kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul. You'd move somebody and then they'd get a call back where their first in is. So when they're out on the road, whether they're going to, you know, coming back from the hospital or something, that's not captured here. It's actually associated with when they are on an incident.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Director Rice.
Chief, did I understand that we don't do move-ups anymore?
Ambulances.
Ambulance
We do not do ambulance move-ups, correct. Yeah, it was, again, we saw the data, it wasn't supportive, and we keep our folks at home as much as we can until they're on an incident because of the battalion level coverage. So.
Thank you, Chief.
Oops. So where are we at today? So when we look at the first quarter 2026, Metro Fire provided Folsom 222 responses. In return, during the same time frame, Folsom provided Metro 209. So we'll circle back to 2024. 32% of the time, they were providing service to us more than we were providing to them. We swung to 23% in 2005. Right, we saw a gap, we moved some additional resources up there. Medic 36 closed, that's what caused that to shift in the opposite direction. And now Medic 36 is back in service, right? And we have moved that AMR rig, which I believe was 829, back over to the east side, redeployed as a different unit, so we don't have that type of coverage there anymore, but it's still heavily covered, as Chief Mitchell indicated, and we're sitting at about 5.5%. So this is the closest we have been in quite some time. But there is a caveat, and that is, as of April 21st, there has been an operational change within the city of Folsom, moving Medic 36 to 35. Now, the impact on our organization, I don't anticipate it to be as significant as taking old Medic 36 out of service, because it's still available, it's just a little bit further away. But it will, in fact, impact our system to the point of 1.75 incidents per day. But with that, we need to look at quarter two. Like, this change just happened. Again, in an automatic aid, boundary drop system, it is a domino effect. When you change one thing, it changes the whole picture. The question is how much has it changed? And it's up to us to keep an eye on it. That coupled with, I know Station 36 is having some challenges right now with some mold and some remediation things, so they had to move the engine out. And they've been out for about 7 days. They'll likely be out until the end of the month. So that too will play into the effect of what quarter two looks like. So I will tell you that we're gonna keep an eye on it, just as we do with all the other agencies that provide service to us, and we provide service to them. And when we get into that 20 percentile, where that pendulum is swinging really hard, it's up to us to sit down and figure out why. Do we need to change our deployment model? Do we need to have some strategic conversations with these agencies to help balance that back out? So it's a fair playing field. At the end of the day, the automatic aid system works. It is a fantastic insurance policy. Our agencies don't know when we're gonna have an extreme sentinel event, and it's really nice to have resources available, sometimes outside of our jurisdiction, to help us out. So I don't want to lose sight of that, because it's a really good system. It works well, so long as we keep it balanced. So with that, I would like to open up to any final questions that you might have for us.
Great. Any questions, Director?
Thank you, Mr. President. Chief, thanks very much for all this data. We love this kind of understanding. It looks like, using your numbers, we're doing about 620 calls then annually. And, you know, we can have a conversation about what the impact that has on our organization when we all are, you know, having some staffing and monetary challenges. My concern is, you mentioned 10 agencies, 4 core.
Correct.
Well, if these numbers are equal or the same or whatever to other agencies, you're starting getting some big numbers as it relates to the region. And that's where I think our men and women need to know that we're on top of this and watching that, because you take 620 times 4, you start getting into a couple of thousand calls a year where we're providing that service. And I understand the unanticipated or couldn't anticipate seminal events, but when this becomes something that is happening all the time, Metro Fire's got an obligation to look at its operation and wonder, where are we expending money that we're not receiving a revenue for? Because we need to make sure that revenue continues in order to make sure our budgets are balanced, so on and so forth. So I get all the things you've shared, and I appreciate all of this data. It's really great. I just want us to understand that if this number continues with other partnerships, now we're getting into numbers, and this isn't a small number. And there's agencies in our community that don't run 620 calls a year. And I'm concerned about that part. So I appreciate the diligence. It sounds like when our partners make those changes, you guys are right on it to see what operational. I guess for me, what I would hope amongst the chiefs is that before these decisions of closing stations or changing deployment happens, where then we're faced with having to do an awful lot of work on the fly, that those conversations would occur at the regional level or at least the local player level. So before a Folsom chief or a city chief or whoever says, hey, we have to do this for whatever reason, there's an operational conversation about, well, hold on. Let's talk about the impact it'll have downstream for the rest of us. So anyway, I very much appreciate the hard work and effort. I know I was one of those that was clamoring on this based on some conversations I've had with our men and women. And so I appreciate the education.
Yeah, thank you, Director Gould. And point taken, we are absolutely keeping an eye on all of the agencies, down to the percentage of how much we're providing them in return, what they are reciprocating back to us. And again, if it breaks that 20 percentile, it's a red flag for us. We need to go figure out why, and then we can start those conversations.
And it'd be nice to know that before the action is taken. This will break our back at 20, and then we got to play chase up, versus the conversations occur between ops chiefs or whoever's appropriate, and that conversation be had prior to the implementation of the change, so that so our men and women know too, hey, you're going to have a completely different workday for the next 6 months, whatever happens. And I really appreciate the data and answering the unit hour utilization question, which all of my ambulance buddies are completely understanding of. That's the workload that a paramedic and EMT does every hour. And you all know the detriment that happens to patient care when unit hour utilization isn't tightly controlled. Nobody can do that. Airline pilots, it doesn't matter. Unit hour utilization is a key document. I've been told that we're going to continue to watch a couple of different numbers, but for the paramedic and the EMT, that unit hour utilization is so key that the moment we go over a safe number, we need to be all over it so that patient care continues to be the best, I believe, in the state of California. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Director. Any other questions? Director Jones.
Thank you. In full disclosure, I have been harassing these senior members of staff more than once in the last week or two on these issues, and I do appreciate you spending time and helping to explain and getting some information into this head. One thing I heard tonight that it seems a little bit clearer now, and I just want to confirm. You were talking about the 1.7 number or figure. Now, is that when the previous Folsom medic was not there, and so we dispatched someone from Metro, i.e. they're second in, and so they respond, so we have Do we have 1.7 second due responses? If
Yeah,
that's wrong, please explain.
Yeah, with the projected movement of Medic 36, there will be 1.7 incidents within Metro's jurisdiction that were previously handled by Folsom that now we have to handle. And of those, obviously one transport, statistically speaking, for each 1.7 calls dispatched.
No, thank you for that clarification. Until tonight, I didn't quite understand what that represented, so thank you, gentlemen.
Understood.
Thank you, Director. Director Rice?
And Chief, thank you for that. I know we talk about calls and the number of calls and frequency, but at the end of that, and that's what I appreciated about Director Gould, it's a family, it's somebody who pays for our service on the other end, and we have to get there timely. If the 1.7 proves to be more than that, we're nimble enough to move another AMR unit in there and be able to cover that quickly as we see it. Thank you. And then just looking forward in the next couple of quarters to see how this plays out. So I hope that you'll keep us informed. Thanks.
Certainly.
All right, any other questions? So I have a couple. So I want to make sure I understand. We looked at 2024, 2025, and first quarter of this year. And so you've come forward with two options, and the option is to maintain the existing coverage. Correct. Is that correct? How does that affect, or does it affect, we have Measure O, and part of Measure O is we're looking at where we're going to site fire stations based on where we see the need in our district. Does this affect it at all? Not at this point.
Not at this point, no. We'll utilize the resources that we currently have out of the stations that we currently have within that eastern sector of Battalion 13 to cover that gap that's been identified.
Perfect, thank you. And I think then for me, it's just the key here is this is an operational decision. You guys are working on behalf of this organization to ensure we meet those operational needs. So thank you, and I think to the board's questions about coming back, if we start to see trends, it's important that at least we're aware as emerging issues, but you guys need to implement operations. And so with that, it's my understanding we have a 2x2, and part of that 2x2 is really on the larger issues, larger political side, if I'm not mistaken. So since this is operational, there really wouldn't be a need for that to continue in its current form. Do we feel like we have what we need from, on your end, to work with the city of Folsom and Folsom Fire?
I would, again, with a caveat, right? Today, we're good. Second quarter, we might need to have a conversation.
Okay.
Again, every time there's a change in operations, there's a potential for things to go sideways really quickly, and we need to be ahead of that. Yep. And to the director's points, if it's a political conversation that we can have to help bridge that gap before any operational moves, I think it's a step in the right direction. So to answer your question, I think we're good right now. If we come to you quarter two and we have some challenges, we'll have to probably add that topic to conversation in the 2x2.
Perfect. Director Gould.
Go ahead.
Or
No,
Director
go-
Jones. Sorry. Director Jones, go ahead.
Dr. Gould can go, it's fine.
I guess for me too, the 2x2 that we're currently on, and we've had few meetings, is really more of a political issue than the operational one. So I hope that it continues, because I still think there are some significant issues that need to be addressed. And then we'll see what the future holds for the need for that. But we were approached to have a 2x2 for different reasons than a simple medic move. And I think we need to continue to have that conversation, not just with Folsom, but I hope that, I mean, their general managers here. That's not the intent, is to pick on any one of our contract city, or our partner cities rather. Mm-hmm. It's to look at the overall picture of what is happening in the area and what impact is it having on Metro Fire. And how long can we do this without making some, I think, historical changes? You know, I think there's a couple of us that have been around since the inception of this organization, and we look radically different as a fire department than we did when it was county fire, or American. And so I hope that just politically, we are looking at a much bigger situation here. We provide a higher level of service, a more comprehensive level of service to the citizens of this area, because we looked at what was happening in smaller agencies, and we knew the best thing for the citizens was to bring all that together. And I know Brian was actively involved in that, and today we're sitting here, proof in the pudding that that kind of work pays off for the citizens and our employees. So I hope we keep this conversation. If we have to expand it to other agencies, so be it. I think it's incumbent upon us as politicians that look at policies. Are we doing what's the best in Sacramento County for the men and women who not only serve, but the folks that live in this community? And I can guarantee you we're doing that today as Metro Fire versus where we were at 26 years ago. So if we think 26 years from now, somebody's going to look back and say, man, I'm sure glad they made some of those changes, because look at how big that agency is. Look at its purchasing power. Look at its response, on and on. And so I hope that we continue to have conversations, however they go, of let's not be complacent where we're at today. Let's constantly look forward to how can we improve the system, and where we can think about just the finances. Man, there were some dark days before Metro came about, and there's even been dark days at Metro. But when you get to be as large as we are, there's purchasing power, there's operational prowess that comes from these things. And I hope the politicians say, let's just not rest on our laurels. Yeah, it was 26 years ago, there were tough decisions, but the future's still ahead of us, and it can be incredible. The next quarter century can be incredible if we make decisions in the next couple of years. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate you letting me rant. And you, okay?
Thank you, Director Gould. I appreciate the 100,000-foot level. That's important and critical. No, it truly is. And to that point, we have discussed and, in a sense, closed the loop for today on the operational decisions. Tomorrow it can be different, but we have closed that loop. So my question to staff is, in terms of this political exchange in our 2x2, when I need to acknowledge General Manager, thank you so much for having us at your location with some of your electeds to talk about this stuff. And it's a question of when should we, if and maybe not if, but when should we meet again, and what sort of triggers should happen? I'll ask staff for response. Should we rely on your collection of data that would trigger something more of the 2x2 sit down? What are some of our triggers?
Well, first, a point of clarity. I know I was asked, I took it as a question about the operational deployment component being a topic of conversation during these 2x2s. And if I insinuated that the 2x2 should not continue, that was not the intent at all. It was just very specific to this issue that we're talking about today. We're currently looking good. I fully support the 2x2 continuing. There's lots to talk about. There's lots of work that can still be done. So that was not the intent of the answer that I provided, if that's the way that it was taken.
And that's not how I took it. I was just asking clarifying questions around the 2x2 piece. So thank you, Chief. So Director Jones, sorry, did you get your question answered? When would be the next?
Yeah, and I think some clarity on this, right? As we're talking operational changes, we're going to continue with the reporting out of the data and keep you informed. This is a good example of where we're moving forward with the executive committee and really good communications. I think when we look at 2x2s and strategically looking at the best interest of all communities involved, we're talking about high-level decisions on our next and future fire stations. And that's both with Folsom and with us. And those decisions really need to escalate at the 2x2 level, I believe, is what we're talking about. Chief Solek and I are going to continue to meet. We'll meet with the ops chiefs, just like I talked to Chief Costamani with City Fire. And we're talking about the operational changes. But when we have an opportunity, especially, and the question was with Measure O, when we're looking at future builds and we can help out each other and be good partners, those decisions are coming to us now on where we're going to place fire stations. And so I think that when we look at 2x2s, I think that's the level of conversation we need to get at. And that's the recommendation I would have with City Manager in the room tonight. The operational stuff, every day-to-day stuff, and how we're moving our apparatus around is being handled at the operational level. And I think this demonstrates that tonight. We really need to challenge ourselves for the better of the community. We are faced right now as Metro Fire to make some decisions at our future fire stations. So that's where we need to escalate the 2x2s. Are we good there? I think that's where we can be united. And I know I'm throwing out an overhead question, But I believe that's what I'm hearing from you. I believe that's the intent, and that's what I would recommend.
Thank you, Chief.
Yeah. No, I definitely, I appreciate that clarification. That's what I meant, that 100,000-foot level needs we need to be looking at that level. And I appreciate Brian, his staff, and his council for sharing that perspective. Okay.
Thank you, Director. Director Sailors.
Thank you, President Costa. As I look at this map, I have a question. Before they moved Medic 36 out of that northwest corner, the large pink area actually looks like it goes up in the South Placer area, where it was taking care of a large area of South Placer's district. So my question is, once they move Medic 36 down, that has opened up a large area where South Placer, is that going to be drawing us up into South Placer's area? Or is South Placer taking care of their area? Okay.
So, yeah, great question. We don't currently have an automatic aid agreement with South Placer Fire District. Now, they can request mutual aid from us, and we do on occasion provide some resources to them. On very rare occasions, is it an ambulance? It's typically a Type 1 fire engine or fire truck.
Yes, I know, because of where I am in my district, we do go into Placer County when they call us. So that's my question, and that I would like you to keep track of that also. Thank you. That's
Great question. Thank you. All right. Any other questions from the board? I thank you for taking the time, and this is, I think, really aligns with what we've been talking about of getting ahead of issues and at least getting the board apprised of those. Thank you for the thought that you guys put into this and the options and continuing the great work. So thank you again. And I want to thank the city manager for coming out tonight. Thank you. Thank you, team. All right. That takes us to our next item, Wellness, Health, and Safety, Assistant Chief Peck.
Well, good evening, President Costa, Board of Directors, Chief House, colleagues, members of the public. Tony Peck, Assistant Chief for the Wellness, Health, and Safety Division, and I'm here tonight to give you an update on Wellness, Health, and Safety. So it's been a little over a year and a half since we formed the division, a little over a year since we've been fully staffed, and tonight I just want to briefly go over the structure of our division, exactly what we do a year and a half into this, as well as some of our division highlights, some of the things we're working on, and also some of our strategic goals. So first of all, our division staffing, we actually have two new members in our division. We have Battalion Chief Brian Gonzalez, who's our Safety BC, and Captain Pete Vitava, who is our new Physical Wellness Officer. Two of the individuals I want to really focus on tonight, or at least for this section, is our Safety Specialist Bobby Sestito and Safety Technician Brian Spence. Bobby and Brian are the backbone of our safety division. I think we've talked about that. They do an incredible job. Not only are they known throughout the state for what they do, but they're known throughout the country for their knowledge of PPE, their involvement in PPE, and the operation they run here at Metro Fire. In fact, various agencies and vendors actually come here to see their operation on how we clean and process PPE. So they do an exceptional job. And one thing I want to highlight is, so Bobby and Brian and one of our logistics techs, Barry Knapp, set a record for cleaning PPE, at least for Metro Fire. On February 5th, 2023, or 2026, they cleaned 65 sets of turnouts, 50 hoods, 5 helmets, 7 pairs of boots, 32 pairs of gloves, and 22 SCBA packs. That is absolutely unheard of. And so we wanted to recognize them. So we actually went out and made this banner, which is up in the safety division if you walk in there, which they really appreciated. And that really is a testament to their devotion to duty and their pride in what they do. And just as important, if you look at that banner, what it signifies is a change of culture here at Metro Fire. It wasn't that long ago when members after a fire would keep their turnouts in their locker, they'd keep them in their rig, and they'd be exposed to those contaminants as well as the rest of the crews. So now members are religiously sending in their turnouts to be cleaned after every fire. And what really makes this work is that Brian and Bobby do an incredible job getting those cleaned and back to those members by the next rotation. So a shout out to them, and really a shout out to our members as well. This is a big change for our members to do this. After a fire, firefighters don't want to go and get watered down from head to toe. We're making great strides in that area. Our division goals, these are kind of our guiding principles in the division: ensure the safety of all Metro Fire employees in all corners of our agency. I want to focus on all corners of our agency, not just on emergency scenes or on the fire ground, but it's all of our stations, our facilities, HQ, CRD, fleet, out on the road. It really is a 360-degree mindset. Provide the right health and wellness resources leading to a resilient workforce. I put in quotes, right wellness resources. There's a myriad of wellness resources out there right now. Every time we open our door, someone's wanting to sell us a resource. So we really have to do our due diligence and our research to find the right wellness resources. The resilient workforce, not only are we working on things for our members now, but how are we going to get them across that finish line 30 years from now? With our call volumes going up, we're still running the same traumatic calls, and now most of our members aren't retiring until age 57. So what are we going to do to get them to across that finish line and well into retirement? Serve as a risk management partner. Our number one focus is the safety of our members, but also how are we protecting our agency from risk and liability, making sure we're compliant with all codes and standards with OSHA, and how is our quarterly safety team, quarterly safety meetings looking well beyond the horizon on potential threats from Metro Fire when it comes to risk and liability. Our division structure, we basically have two programs. So we have a safety program and we have our wellness program. Our safety program, we have 9 different areas that we focus on. Our exposure reduction, that's all the decontamination we do in the field, our PPE swaps, our cleaner cab, our decontamination rig. Our safety officers, we have over a dozen safety officers on shift in the field to help with investigations for firefighter injuries, burns, maydays, close calls. Vehicle incident reporting, making sure members who are involved in accidents have on-scene support, making sure we're collecting all the proper information for insurance purposes, and then taking all that data and giving it over to our training division where they can put together training plans for our members. NFP 1851, this is where Bobby and Brian really shine. This is the selection, care, and maintenance of PPE. Soon we'll be pushing 700 members in the agency, so this is a huge task on their shoulders. Respiratory, that's our annual fit testing every year. Injury illness prevention, that's our guiding document when it comes to member and facility safety and making sure we're reporting injuries in the right way, and this is where we're lockstep with OSHA. Protective equipment, this is basically everything other than our turnouts. It's our SCBAs, our face pieces, our thermal imaging cameras. Infection control, wellness, health, and safety partners with the EMS division on communicable diseases, where there might be anything similar to like a COVID or tuberculosis or scabies if we were to have that outbreak. Working with them, make sure we're protecting our members, and we're also providing all the information our command structure needs to be successful. And then finally, post-incident analysis, whenever we do have a significant event in the field, partnering with operations and doing those investigations and making sure our members get those lessons learned. Safety program, now we're onto the wellness program. We break it down into physical wellness and behavioral wellness. Physical wellness, we have our occupational medical exam. That's our annual medical exams for our firefighters. Physical wellness resources, I talked about the myriad of resources out there. These are the multi-cancer early detection tests. These are the biomarker tests, advanced cardiac testing. So a lot of physical wellness resources we're evaluating. And then finally, health and fitness, that's Coach Gallagher. So that's him working with all of our recruits and MMPs in the academies, doing station assessments and taking care of the professional staff. For behavioral wellness, we have our EAP and our vetted clinicians. Peer support, training new members, ongoing training for current members, and building that peer support cadre. Just like physical wellness resources, we have the behavioral wellness resources, different treatment facilities, different therapies that we're looking into. Resiliency team, I'll talk about that here in a moment. Work comp liaison, I've talked to the board about this before. This is Captain Manfredi in our peer support group, staying in touch with those members who are on work comp and helping facilitate paperwork, hopefully getting them back to work sooner. And then our canine peer support program. And that's the 2 dogs that we have. We have Silver at Station 50 and Birdie at Station 109. Division highlights. Before I get into the division highlights, I do want to say that Wellness, Health, and Safety does a lot of collaboration with labor. We get together on a regular basis. We share information. They also get a quarterly update from our division on exactly what we're doing. So a lot of things we're talking about tonight is in collaboration with 522. Some of our highlights for safety: preliminary exposure reduction. We continue to push forward with that. We are seeing a dramatic increase than we did a year and a half ago when we're doing the wet decontamination in the field. One of our highlights is over the next couple months, we are going to move from the 48-foot decontamination rig that you've probably seen down to a Ford Transit van, which is similar to what the logistics techs drive. This can carry all the same equipment, but the bottom line is it's easier for firefighters to drive, it's safer for them to drive, they get on scene quicker, and most importantly, that decon rig can get up to the scene where they can be utilized, as opposed to maybe around the corner where the big rig has to park because they can't get into the scene. Our PFAS-free wear trial, for those of you who are not familiar with the PFAS, so those are forever chemicals that are in basically everything around us, including our turnouts. And studies show that these chemicals can cause cancer under certain conditions. And specifically with their turnouts, over time, those chemicals will leach out through the turnouts under heat, under wear and tear, under laundering. So there's a lot of different discussions, a lot of different opinions, but the bottom line is that the Fire Service and the California Legislature and Assembly Bill 1181 is moving forward to ban PFAS in turnouts. So Metro Fire wants to be proactive. We don't want to be caught flat-footed. So later this summer, early fall, we're going to be conducting a comprehensive PFAS-free wear trial. We're going to be looking at 3 different moisture barriers for our members. We're really excited. We have 2 researchers from back east that we met earlier this year, a Dr. Orman from North Carolina State and a Dr. Smith from Appalachian State, who are really excited to be part of this. There's not too many agencies who are doing this, so we look forward to that. Wildland respirator.
I have a question.
I'm sorry.
Chief Peck, when, on the PFAS-free wear trial, I would almost, demand is not the right term, but I would strongly recommend that any manufacturer that gives us turnouts to test or to wear, that they give us a set randomly that we can test ourselves. I would trust no one. San Francisco ran a test, and all they did was replace PFAS with other regrettable substances, namely brominated hydrocarbons that we eliminated in furnishings. Manufacturers are not to be trusted in this arena whatsoever, no matter who you deal with. The only person that's a PhD and a study scientist in this field that I would trust is Dr. Derek Irwin, who is a fire captain with the Los Angeles County Fire Department and is on staff with UCLA. I would be very, very careful with the promises any manufacturer or anybody else makes to us, because they pulled the wool over our eyes for the last 50 years, and they'll keep screwing us. So that's my 2 cents, and I feel very strongly about it.
Thank you.
Be careful.
We've actually had those conversations on exactly what are they replacing it with. I'm actually on the Fire Scope Cancer Subcommittee with Derek Irwin, so we'll be having those conversations.
And I'll interrupt real quick. I hear you loud and clear. I know all of our vested interests in this, and we will definitely implement that into our process. Not just one. I think it's worthy of our size to have a request of more than that to get some independent testing back on this. You and I have had extensive conversation on this. We are lockstep with that, Director Rice. Thank you.
You're welcome. Wildland Respirator, Wellness, Health, and Safety is partnering with the Wildland Subcommittee as well as 522 and OSHA to find a wildland respirator, approved wildland respirator for firefighters moving forward to protect against particulate. Lithium-ion fire working group, lithium-ion fires, electric vehicle fires, home battery systems, all the lithium batteries that you find in your garage, in your home, has become the new lethal threat for firefighters. In fact, last year, 4 Sac City firefighters suffered significant respiratory injuries due to the toxic smoke from a EV fire and still have not come back to work. So this is a top priority. Wellness, Health, and Safety is partnering with training and operations. We've put together a working group, and we're going to be looking at our preparedness, our strategy and tactics, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So are we working on getting a cleaning device for the lithium ion to clean turnouts and stuff after that type of an incident?
So the liquid CO2, I'll be talking about that here in just a moment, but yes.
And I'm going to interrupt one more time. Director Sailors, I hear you loud and clear tonight. And in the past, and if you remember, one of my absolute priorities for this organization under Metro was to get that, not only for us, but to be a good partner in the region, to make sure we have good, clean turnouts and they're not shipped off somewhere else, that they do their testing to verify they're clean. We have to do this as an organization to move forward. And I hope you're going to talk about what we've already done from our incident on the structure fire with lithium. Please highlight that a little bit with what you already enacted, because that's important. You know what I'm talking about?
Our decontamination guidelines?
Correct. Thank you for that comment, Director Sailors.
So we put together this working group to look at our preparedness, our strategy and tactics, our decontamination. We're partnering with all the other agencies in the Sacramento region as well as specialists. We did have an incident a few weeks ago. We're at a commercial property where there was a lithium ion fire, and stemming from that, we developed some decontamination guidelines that were immediately sent out to the crews as a stopgap measure, as well as some operational considerations. So this is definitely a top priority for this division and for the agency, so you'll hear more about that one. Our regional safety team, Metro Fire, reached out to Sac City, Consumnes, Folsom, Sac International, Roseville, Rockland, South Placer, and next month we're going to have our first meeting of our regional safety team. A few reasons for that. Number one, simply share information. We want to share what we're doing on decontamination of lithium ion, and we want to learn from them as well. Secondly, to make sure that we're compatible with each other when it comes to equipment, and if we're not, we know about it. And then finally, hopefully when we do some of the big purchases, whether it's SCBAs or turnouts, we have more purchasing power as a region as opposed to individual. So we're looking forward to that meeting next month. Physical wellness, MyNP, the resolution was adopted this evening, so we're excited to work with MyNP as our new wellness vendor, wellness exam vendor. They've done some work comp for us, and they've been excellent over the last year, so we're looking forward to that. We're also looking to incorporate some early cancer detection testing, including ultrasound of vital organs, some biomarker testing. Our physical therapy expansion, until late last year, we only did physical therapy once a week. We are now up to twice a week. We felt like the demand was there. And after talking to Dan McLean, our lead physical therapist, we are booking out. We're booking out with non-work comp claims and work comp claims. I should have added that the last hour of each one of those days is reserved simply for work comp. So work comp members are getting in there quicker, getting back to work. The non-work comp members are hopefully doing those preventive things so they don't go on work comp. Health and Fitness Fair, as you know, Coach Gallagher put together the second annual Health and Fitness Fair earlier this year, did an incredible job, and we're already planning for the third year. Behavioral wellness, the resiliency team. So when we look at our EAP and we look at our treatment facilities, that's after the fact. That is reactionary. The question is, what are we doing on the front end? What are we doing in a preventative basis for our members? So Captain Manfredi, one of his top priorities on peer support on days is to find these types of therapies, these different facilities. And so he found a company in Healdsburg called First Responder Resiliency. And what they do is they focus on coping mechanisms, self-regulation for members. Because as firefighters, we're constantly in that sympathetic nervous system. We're waiting for the tones to go off, responding to calls, we're dealing with the trauma, and a lot of times we can't shut that off, which is very damaging for the body and the mind. So what resiliency does is helps firefighters engage that parasympathetic nervous system, where you can rest, we can relax, and we can regenerate. So as of June, we're gonna have about 10 members who've gone through this training, and they're gonna come back here to Metro Fire as that resiliency team and share that with our members. Our member support team, this is actually an idea that Chief House had. From time to time, we have members that go through catastrophic incidents here at Metro Fire, whether it's a positive diagnosis, a significant injury, a mental health crisis. What are we doing to help those members? A lot of our members, when this happens, are very fortunate. They get a flood of support from their crews and other people in the agency, but we do have members who don't get that support. So what do we do for them? So the member support team, we're still ironing out some of the details, but this is where a member could request support from the team. The team would be activated. It's someone from Wellness, Health, and Safety, peer support, work comp liaison, labor, human resources, the association, the chain of command. And what it is, it's a safety net. to make sure all of our members are being taken care of and no one's left behind. And I do want to note that none of this is tied to the budget and there are no gift of public funds. So more to come on the member support team. And then finally,
Question, Director Gould?
Chief, just really quickly, you say the word member, okay? Are you meaning employee?
Employee.
Thank you. Okay, I got it. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Director.
We'll make that correction. So this member support team would be for anybody in the agency, whether you're a 25-year firefighter, a 2-year MMP, or someone who works in payroll, all employees.
Thank you so much.
Employee support team. Expanded clinician facility resources. This is constantly ongoing. This is where Captain Manfredi spends a lot of his time, is trying to build our pool of providers, our clinicians, vetting out them so they're well-versed in first responders, as well as facility resources. Like I said before, finding the right resources. There's all kinds of treatment facilities out there, but we need to find the right facilities for our members. And some of our strategic goals moving forward are our 10-year cancer prevention plan. We're looking at every nook and cranny in this agency on how we can reduce exposure for our members. We're doing a great job with future designs of stations when we're looking at the hot, warm, and cold zones and ventilation systems. But what are we doing for our current stations, our older stations? So we're looking at everything from Plime events to turnouts in the App Bay, gyms in the App Bay. We have a lot of members coming forth with ideas on our cookware, our cleaning supplies. So we're looking at everything and going to comprise a 10-year cancer prevention plan. Cancer clinic partnership. Unfortunately, in our profession, we will have members who will be diagnosed with cancer. So what are we doing to take care of them? Right now, the treatments vary and it's inconsistent. So the goal would be to partner with a clinic where we can take those members and seamlessly hand them over to a cancer clinic where they have radiation therapy, surgical oncology, follow-on care, follow-on care. So that's one of our goals. Liquid CO2, you mentioned liquid CO2. So this is a multi-branch, multi-division effort, and right now we're looking at where we want to house this liquid CO2 machine. As you mentioned, that's the only effective cleaning for liquid CO2 contamination or lithium-ion contamination. So we're still working on that. That's a huge endeavor, and there's primarily 3 companies, liquid CO2 machines. So we're kind of evaluating those. We don't want to jump at the first one, so we're doing our due diligence. And then finally, future safety facility. As I mentioned, we're going to be pushing 700 members here soon. So Bobby and Brian, they're running out of room to clean and process and store PPE. In addition to that, we want to protect them from exposure as well. So having a state-of-the-art facility where it has the proper ventilation, the proper decontamination areas, so we'll be working towards that. So I know that was kind of long, but I felt like we owed the board and the members a comprehensive look at its newest division. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chief. All right, questions from the board? No, sir. No question? Oh, sorry, Director.
Chief Beck, I just want to say I've noticed recently over the last couple months an increase in social media publications from your staff. It's just been great to see. That record that you got talked about was both in LinkedIn and in Instagram recently, and it's good to see them getting that word out and promoting that. So good job, and let's keep it up.
Thank you.
If you could pass that along to them.
Great, thank you.
All right, any other questions? Great work. Thank you very much for taking the time and keeping us informed. All right, we will now open the public hearing. Introduction and first reading of the proposed ordinance 2026-01, fee adjustment of the medical aid and ambulance transportation fees, and adoption of a resolution accepting the ambulance and first responder fees study. Deputy Chief Mitchell and Assistant Chief Renicky.
Good evening again, President Costa, Board, Fire Chief, members of the public, colleagues. Again, Adam Mitchell, Deputy Chief over Support and Emergency Medical Services, joined tonight with Assistant Chief Rudnicki from the EMS Division. I just want to start off before we dive into this. I think it's really important to recognize how much work we've put in, and this, when I say we, it's everybody in this room and outside of this room to get to where we're at tonight. understanding the level of engagement needed and knowing it's been 6 months since we've been in front of you with EMS-related fee information, I am really, really proud of where we are at tonight. I would be remiss if I didn't thank the internal staff, and I might miss a few folks, but just to understand where we started back in December once you all heard about the fee study. CFO O'Toole, CDO Fry, Chief Rudnicki, and myself have been in those meetings a lot over the last few months to get to where we're at. It's also really important to recognize the level of engagement you all have had from the board. We've taken a lot of direction, consensus, input on where we need to be thinking about things differently. And then also to our members. As you're well aware, we had some members that were engaged and sent you all letters about some things that we needed to consider, and they care a lot about what we do out there for our community, and I want to make sure we recognize them. And then finally, I want to recognize our partners. We have almost gotten to a point in the number of meetings we've had with our partner in Whitman. We probably should have some remote offices over there because the number of times we've been over to their facility, and I know Director Sailors, you accompanied us to one of those meetings to really ensure that everything that we're doing now aligns with everything from our ordinance to our resolutions, to our policies, our procedures, down to the who answers the phone and how we respond to those concerns. Because really the goal is it's an effective and appropriate cost recovery within our statutory obligations and our allowances and our legal constraints that were brought up for consistency and equity. We need to make sure that we're addressing that. That maintains the right level of service out there for our folks. This is 80 to 90% of what we do, arguably, in EMS, and we want to make sure we get that right. All while balancing the compassion for the members of our community and making sure that we're aware of the challenges they may face. And that is no small task. I can stand here in front of you very unequivocally and tell you it was no small task. So I just wanted to start with that before we jump into it. It's been a lot of work, and so thank you to everybody, and I'm really glad to be here tonight, finally, and looking forward to the conversation and getting some directions. So we'll jump in. Anything else to say? There's a lot of words. I'm using a lot tonight. Okay, so the presentation before we get into the ordinance and things. So just really a recap on why our EMS fees exist. We know as an agency that most of our inception documents in the Special Fire District Act 1987 established our statutory ability to become a fire district. Where do we get our funding and what's it for? It's property taxes. It supports our baseline fire protection and prevention services. And then, the fire service is really good at saying yes, and so you add all of these other things in with special operations and other response types, and EMS being one of them. They're not covered under necessarily the property tax piece of where our funding source was originally put together, and where we draw those from in Proposition 13. So it's really, it's a need to make sure that we balance out those requests for services from our community, because it is the right thing to do, with an ability to recover costs that our baseline structure for revenue and cost recovery does not support, and that's where this comes from. So we're balancing that taxpayer funding with the user-based cost recovery. EMS is what you have in front of you tonight. There's also other cost recovery services and fire prevention and other things like that. But that's just a refresher on where our funding comes from and why we have this and why we need to continue to do this to assist our community. So real quick on the overview and why we needed to bring this back to you. The first one is that our EMS costs continue to increase, no different than any other costs for services or fuel or anything else in today's economy. We have staffing needs, we have equipment needs to stay on the cutting edge of what services we provide in this world as medical care providers, and then also just being ready for whatever comes next, whatever that next thing is that we don't anticipate. And then we also have the awareness that our fee recovery currently, and this is not different than other agencies in the medical field, is we're about 30% recovery of all those actual costs that it costs to provide that level of service. So that's an important factor to consider about why we need to do this. Part of that is driven by our federal reimbursement limits, and we talk about Medicare and Medicaid and where those caps are put in. It costs a certain amount, but we're capped by federal legislation on how those are allocated back to our agency as an EMS provider, and that's true across the country. And so those are a good awareness. That we also have payer mix types and our call percentages, and so it all comes down to about 30% of the actual costs that we know is an industry standard, and that's where we're at. Which is that last point there. One of the things that that has come up, why 30%, right? And I talked about the payer mix and the percentage of calls, and we're at upper 40% is Medicare, and then we have, there's folks that we just don't cost recover because they don't pay the bill or whatever the reasons are. Private pay, we have insurance and managed healthcare recovery. All of that mushed together becomes what we total in recovery of costs. And there's folks that, well, why is it 30%? What can we do? Really, the change factor here is at that legislative level. I mean, when we talk about what we get back for Medicare, that's driven, a majority of our calls are there. That's driven by federal legislation through CMS and how we get allocated those funds. That takes that level of influence and legislative change, and we want to go after more recovery. And one of those examples in the program that you're very familiar with, in the acronym PPG-EMT, on how do we start hedging our bets to try to find other alternative ways to increase that percentage, and that's been a pretty successful thing. So just based off of history on where the fee ordinances have come from, our last comprehensive study was done in 2017, almost 10 years ago, which that should be a red flag for us. We did some updates back in 2023 based off of our comparable agencies and what others were charging to come up to, at the time, what was consistent. And then this last one here, we've done a comprehensive overview, really to look at the differences and what we've done now that's different from before, and talk about MIH and some of those cutting edge programs, alternative destinations, and getting the right resource with the right level of care to the patients at the right time, at the right cost. So this was a need to go in and dive into those spaces and really do an update so we can make sure we're aware of all the changes, maximizing the changes, but also recognizing that as we go through and some of that legislation does get updated, when we see things like the CARE Act at the federal level that'll allow for Medicare to start paying potentially as pilots for MIH, we need to be aware of that. And so a more regular process of looking at what our fees ordinance is calling for and making sure that we're in that space and on the edge of recovering those costs. Specific to our fee study process, you've seen this slide before. It's been a few months, so just putting it back up there for a history awareness lesson. Really our board direction and strategic intent, like I talked about, being financially healthy and making sure that we're doing the right thing by cost recovery. Service delivery and operational modeling, we needed to look at what we were doing out there. We're deploying different resource types and levels of service, so we looked at that to drive our financial modeling, which was the actual fee study itself, which was done back late last year and presented to you all in December. Then we did what work we've been doing now, which was policy and ordinance development, which that took the last 6 months to get back to you here. And now we're in that final phase of implementation planning. And pending the hearing tonight and hearing at the end of the month, all goes well and we get this done, we're anticipating implementation of our new ordinance resolutions and policies, procedures, communication plans by July 1st, by the next fiscal year. So. And it is important to recognize when the EMS fee study is completed, it's not saying, the output is not saying what we should be charging or recovering in costs or what we should be recovering. It's actually saying what we may recover in costs based off of the level of service we provide. So it's not, we don't have to take the fee study and just plug that into our numbers and say this is what we're gonna charge for cost recovery. A very specific example of that is in the fee study, because of all of those things in the background that happen to make sure we support ALS level of care, our treatment on scene fee, the recommendation, or at least what we were allowed to get to in the fee study, was over $2,000. We've chosen to come back to you here tonight based off of the discussion at $516, which is what we currently are at, because we also are sensitive to what I talked about before, which is the compassion for our community and making sure that we're not doing something way out of left field that's not in alignment with what other agencies are doing, even though that's what we could be at the top of, right? So that's an example. So then we went back after the initial study was presented and brought back to you in December. You guys gave us some great direction in some key areas by consensus. We took that to heart. We did some follow-up discussions and clarification after the first presentation in September. We came back in December and got some more clarity, and then we went to work. we got consensus direction, and we incorporated that into what I talked about before, which was our ordinance, fee schedule, and resolutions that we brought before you tonight. So I'm going to step away and let Chief Rudnicki address one item from the staff report, and then also take the next few slides, and I'm going to get a quick drink of water.
Thank you, Chief Mitchell. President Costa, Board, Fire Chief. John Rudnicki, Assistant Chief, Director of EMS. Director Rice, thank you for the question. And so to clarify to the board, on page 164, there was a misprint or an error on our part, and there was a response to a question about suspending EMS fees, and the statement in there is not accurate. We actually do have legal authority to suspend, and that was a misprint. So we'll get that corrected on the documents, but wanted to make sure we address that. So thank you for pointing that out. One of the privileges I have as the Director of EMS is to administer these fees and oversee how we do it. And the part of it that I really is a daily part of EMS that I really enjoy is this compassionate part of how we thread the needle and balance it to meet our financial needs and cost recovery, to keep the services and keep things in service so we can continue to deliver service, while also recognizing there is compassion needed, and there's specific and tender cases that we need to support our citizens when appropriate, when necessary, with process and procedure. So I'm excited that over this last bit of time digging into it, we were able to look at this ordinance we put before you, but also redraft our policy, rewrite our procedures, and make sure it aligns. As Chief Mitchell spoke, meeting with Whitman multiple times to really understand their world a little bit better also. They're a great partner to ours, and as the subject matter experts in billing and all the intricacies that go with it, we value their input, but it's also our responsibility to make sure we understand that and we have clear communication on what we expect of them when there may be a dispute or there may be an issue. So as we've gone through this process, one of the things we did is we received some feedback from our workforce. We run close to a couple hundred calls a day, EMS calls. And our men and women out there that are running those calls, sometimes they know on the back end that there's going to be a fee for service and there's going to be a cost recovery component. There are cases where it puts them in a position where they have to explain things to the citizen who maybe had a bill previous, or consider what the impacts are of our treatments. Or if somebody tells us they don't want any care, they don't want an assessment, but we really see there's an anatomical or physiological need or reason to do it. And so it puts them in a tough position. And so we took input from the field, and we had a couple members write letters to you, and we addressed them. We met with them one-on-one and talked through some of their questions and challenges, and then also folded those suggestions and challenges into our evaluation and consideration of, can we do legally the things that are suggested? Can we just not bill people? Can we bill some and not others? Excuse me. Can we? What are the different options to have compassion and to navigate that? So we looked into that. We looked for fairness and transparency and the impact on the patient. We incorporated all of this feedback where we could, and part of this output is this communication plan. Chief Mitchell's taken the lead on the communication part. Our men and women out there care, and they care to have the information, to have the tough conversations on scene when they're advocating to help the patient. And so one of those requests that we're going to deliver is some type of reference that they can have. So it gives them high-level talking points. They're not getting in the weeds of the amounts and things because, quite frankly, the complexity of the billing and the insurance and all that, we couldn't answer their questions on scene. That's why we have Whitman and partners to help us do that anyway. But rather give them the high bullet points to help them have a compassionate and a direct conversation. So those citizens, the patients, they understand that there's a cost recovery component to it. So now at a high level, some of the key ordinance updates. We wanted to have clear triggers that are tied to the documented patient care. So one of the examples that we frequently get either disputes or concerns, or there's uncertainty about is, for example, like a treatment on scene or when we don't transport a patient, which then incurs a fee. There's two types of fees that this occurs currently, and that's if there's an assessment or if we treat the patient and we're not there. And that's based on those two different fees. The number's the same, the dollar amount's the same, but it depends on what apparatus are actually there, on which one it is. The challenge is by name when a patient gets the bill, they don't understand that we took a blood pressure, we assessed them, we provided our highest level of training through our intuition, our assessment process to determine maybe they didn't need an intervention, they didn't need a procedure, they didn't need to be transported. But again, through the NBS fee study, that captures the cost for us to get there and to perform all those things, the high level of training our men and women have. And so the study doesn't designate all the little details of what we actually did. It's a matter of all the costs, the direct and indirect costs that you can see in the fee study of what it takes to get there and show up. So we wanted a clearer definition of what that looks like. And so we proposed in the ordinance to remove the confusion of these terms, and we have a treatment on scene fee is what our proposal is. It's in that same dollar range. But the trigger is, it's one that we can manage very easily in the division, is if the crews or when the crews document their chief complaint and it comes in, and we look at the disposition, and a disposition is a very specific key drop-down that they choose. Based on the disposition, we then ask ourselves, did they take vitals and or do a procedure? So did they assess or do something, or both? And if those triggers exist, then the cost recovery bill or fee would then be executed and go out. So it provides a little clarity on that part. It also provides a lot more consistency on interpreting what happened on scene, and it helps with the workflow to have it that specific and those trigger mechanisms in place, so then we can take that, again, sorry, take that PCR, send it over to Whitman. Another question that came up regularly is automatic aid. We heard a little bit about it with the presentation on Folsom. And that happens regularly. I know we've talked to many of you about automatic aid in the billing and this perception of when a bill comes in that there could be a double bill for the first responder component. The good news is we've confirmed with Whitman multiple times that doesn't occur. And so when we when we transport a patient, for example, our ambulance and Folsom, since we just talked about them, their fire engine, the patient will get two separate bills, but our bill does not include our first responder. They're going to get a separate bill for Folsom's first responder. So the good news is that's been happening. Where we found an opportunity is to clarify our terminology, so when you read it in the fee study, you actually understand. So that's where you see the automatic aid with transport. So what that means is the engine was the automatic aid, but we transported. So we're going to submit a bill for the transport. So again, that's our attempt to clean that up. Again, the billing is going to be the same, but the language and the clarity is better is our attempt. This next bullet point on expanded patient protection or low income and hardship program. Again, this is one that I really take a lot of pride in, and I find a lot of satisfaction in trying to create a process or procedure to help our citizens. In 24-25 fiscal year, I looked back at our billing disputes and our low-income applications. So we have two mechanisms. When somebody wants to dispute a bill, they say, you didn't provide this service, or there's an error. That's a dispute, or they have low income. The low-income process in 24-25, we had an 84% approval of all applications. So 258 people applied for low income. They went through our process, which includes providing proof of low income, W-2. It's all based on federal standards of poverty limits. And 84% of those, or 219, were approved with a total amount waived of $154,000. So these are people that couldn't afford the bill. We worked through the process and we supported them. Only 16% of those were denied. On the denials, we also have a payment process where we work with them that they can make payments, and we work through that process. Again, showing compassion. The dispute process is a little more subjective, but again, we had 77 disputes, and we approved 49% of them for a total of $14,400. Again, if they're denied, we can refer them through the low-income process, the payment plan process, and other processes. Ultimately, there's also a component of the ordinance that says that the fire chief or his designee has the authority to also waive a fee that's in the best interest of the district. So what that means is we also evaluate the amount of staff hours and time of what we're going to be investing and where those lines are. So we look at it through as objective of a lens as we can for consistency, but our goal is to support the public while recovering costs. The one key component that I'm really excited about, and my staff is not here, my team, although Dr. Graham is here, I would like to recognize her because she contributed a lot also. But I do want to call it EMS technician Daniel Ortiz because he helped us develop a sliding scale. So I'm going back to the low income component. Our current ordinance says that you qualify for low income at the poverty limit up to 250%. So the heartbreaking part for us is there's times where you're at 251% and it's a 0% of a write-off, or they're paying the full amount. So what I'm excited about is we were able to come up with a sliding scale, and our proposal is that up to 200% is 100% write-off, to 225 is 50%, 250 is 25%, and then 10% up to 275. So when we applied this retroactively, we found that we can help more families and more people can get the support they need, and the cost is neutral. So we're really excited to apply that and be able to say yes to more people for that needed support. Do you have any questions about that at this point? Okay. Oh yeah, so the last bullet point is just the reference to our billing policies and procedures that we talked about. So all the stuff, the things I just described as far as low-income disputes and how we work through it, there's a policy update that comes after this and our 2 procedures that align and point us in that right direction. You won't be able to see it from there, but I thought for a visual reference, the complexity of this process, I felt bad having to ask multiple times, so we had to create a map of how it works. And so this is an EPCR from beginning to end. I'm happy to share this with you, but this is our process at Metro Fire, and this is Whitman's process. And this chart, as you can see, all the different arms of it, it's all based off the type of insurance that somebody may have or may not have, and how that gets processed and built. And so again, just as a visual, the complexity of it and how, unfortunately, when we're on scene, we can't just say yes or no, you'll get this bill and how much will be covered. Another recommendation from the board was the elimination of the night charge, and that's been done. We understand the historical nature of a night charge primarily for private ambulance companies, and with your recommendation, we agree, and so that's been done. We've talked about MIH quite a bit, and this is an exciting time for MIH, though we've been living off grants and contracts and things to support us, and we still have some to carry us through December. We have to get the fees in place per ordinance so then we can move forward with a billing practice. We're not overly optimistic that as soon as we start billing, we'll get cost recovery, but what it's going to allow us to do is have the conversations and figure out how to make this work to get a component or a percentage of the cost recovery. While, President Costa, your common question back is, what can we do for you? And you're doing it, but it is at the federal level of getting services such as MIH or community paramedicine or other such services approved so we can get some cost recovery. I covered the other bullet points on that slide. It's also important is our CPI adjustment. So every year, each July 1st, these fees that you will adopt, they will be adjusted every year just based off the CPI index as we've done and as we do with other fees at Metro Fire. When we evaluated the information that comes in the ordinance and the policy and the procedures, we were very strategic and wanted to make sure we evaluated and considered all of your input, while also with the policy and procedure giving the flexibility so we can pivot if there's a slight adjustment needed. So again, that's the part that we take a lot of pride in EMS, of when these bills come through, if we can pivot or adjust a procedure that aligns with your direction to help support the customer and support our community. With that, I will hand it off to Chief Mitchell.
All right, before you speak, any questions from the board?
Mr. President, I do have some questions, but I don't want to interrupt the flow of the information, and the answer might be forthcoming, so I just as soon hold off.
Thank you.
Great, yeah. We're almost there on the presentation, and then absolutely, if we don't answer it, then we're here to support the board's deliberations on where we go next. So just back to one of the follow-ups, what's going to happen next once we get through this hearing process and whatever the action is by the board as far as adopting ordinance. We talked about how do we inform our folks in communication, and from the board, our 4 priority projects in the communication space. We are developing currently the finality of the internal and external communication plan. So the internal communication plan, obviously when speaking with you all, but also to our members that are out providing service in the field. We're gonna finalize that and get it out there with the education, FAQ, the quick reference card. So they have the most information available. And then externally, videos and social media and some of those things to educate the public as well, and our stakeholders about what EMS fees are and why we have them and what it needs to be, why they need to be, as we talked about before. And then ultimately with that consistency in messaging and confusion, I know you all see emails at times from folks in the community having concerns about this. Our proactive approach to that is going to be on this public education piece. But really, ultimately, when we talk about internally, it reinforces that our billing should not ever influence clinical care for the patients in the field that are calling. We really want to be clear on that for our folks that are out there doing the services. Billing should not be a factor in what we do for the community members that are calling for our services. So what's next? Implementation. So finalizing the ordinance and fee schedule, which is happening now and on the next board meeting for the second public hearing. Adopting the resolutions, as we said, there's a couple resolutions, there's the ordinance, there's some other work that we were asking from you all. Updating the policies and procedures, as Chief Radnicki mentioned, we are ongoing. We're finalizing those once the ordinance is final to make sure that we're not doing something that ends up changing. And then coordinating with our third-party billing provider. We've already been doing that, as I said, and I do actually, I mentioned it earlier, but they are here tonight. They're as dedicated to this as we are. They're sitting in the back of the room with a large contingent. So thank you guys for being here again. It's good to see you. But they're committed to getting this to a better space as well. And I don't want to speak for them, but the feedback we've gotten is really no one else is doing it like we're doing it. So that's some good feedback that we've gotten from them. So thank you for that. And then, like I mentioned, in June, once the action and the hearing process is over, we'll roll out those communication plans. So in summary, we took targeted updates based on the study, your input and workforce feedback to improve clarity and consistency and transparency. And it's in the ordinance, but it's also public facing and now our policies and procedures, and it's very clear, as well as our fee structure and the fee schedule. Broke it down more transparently, so it's very clear on how we do things. It allows us that sustainable EMS cost recovery, and then if we do need to pivot, it allows us in policy and procedure to do that without coming back and changing the ordinance. So we're very strategic about that. And then ultimately, it supports both our workforce and the community to balance, like I said, the need to recover costs, the budgetary purpose, as well as the compassion for our community and what we do for the public out there every single day. So the recommendations tonight is the first step is to adopt the EMS fee study, that resolution, and then coming back on the 28th to do the second hearing, adopt the resolution for the new fee ordinance. adopt the resolution removing the old fee ordinance, and then adopt the fee schedule that is a separate document outside of the ordinance intentionally. Questions
All
and
right.
comments?
Thank you,
and,
Chiefs.
I'm
Any
happy to answer.
questions? Director Rice.
Just, Chief Rudnicki, Chief Mitchell, you know how hard I have struggled with fees. But I've really looked at this, and I appreciate that you took the time to answer my questions and have discussion. And where I really landed, I'm fully prepared to support this, and I don't say this easily. Your first slide that shows property taxes, they support baseline fire suppression and prevention services. And I think back to when I was first assigned to Engine 1, and you'll appreciate this, Grant. We had a gentleman who was a COPDer, he was drowning, and myself and Jenna, I forget her last name, an EMT 1 unit from Superior, we positive pressure ventilated him with a Robert Shaw valve and delivered him to Mercy American River alive. That had a lot of dicey consequences. We could have had a really negative impact on him, but we didn't. This department, I think, delivers world-class EMS care to our communities. And we're on the cusp of HR 1 coming into play. That's projected that 3 million Californians will lose federal Medicare or Medi-Cal benefits. So that's going to further impact the system. I know that we're never going to get full cost recovery. I look at the service that the men and women provide and the tools and the equipment that the district provides them, and then the advancements in the medical community and the training that our members have is far superior to what really the funding mechanism was for this whole thing. And really for that reason, when I look at it, I won't even touch on the MIH and how we impact taking calls out of the 911 system, how we save money towards the insurance EMS billing by getting people to a more appropriate facility. We are doing everything we can for our communities to better serve them, to get them the treatment that's true and correct and that they need, as opposed to just taking them to the ED, which impacts everybody. I don't say this lightly at all. I am not a fee guy, and these things were coming into play when I was leaving as a captain. But I've matured a little bit, Grant, you know that. And I appreciate your presentation and your continued willingness to answer questions, and I know I'll have more, but it's going to be a tough world, and it's going to get tougher, and there are going to be a lot in our community that are going to rely on the men and women of Metro Fire for their basic healthcare needs, and that's just a fact. It's been that way since I was on the job, and it's going to be that way going forward, and we have to make sure we're equipped to answer the calls for our community, so thank you for that.
Thank you, Director. Director Wood?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief Rudnicki, Chief Mitchell, thank you so much for what you did and what you put together. But following up on what Director Rice said, and one of the most common complaints I hear in conversations, at least in my area, are people complaining about the medical bills. You know, don't my taxes cover that? I like that first slide in there, but I think it's worth kind of taking it and breaking it down to some smaller steps. So if you'll indulge me. Your property taxes, the property taxes that we as citizens pay can only go to services that directly benefit that parcel, that property on which the tax is paid, right?
Yes.
Right? And so that's why we don't bill somebody for a responder fee when an engine comes out and responds to a house fire.
Right.
Because it's benefiting that parcel, right?
Correct.
So then we've got someone like me trying to jog and go out in the evening, and I roll my ankle down the street, and I'm laying there on the corner, and somebody calls or I call for 911, and they come to me and wrap my ankle or take me to the hospital, and none of that service benefits my parcel on which I pay my property taxes, does it?
Correct, that's correct.
And there's no other tax that I pay in this county, not a sales tax, not a use tax, no other tax that I pay that covers that responder to come and address my ankle and, or take me to the hospital, is there?
Correct.
So the only way that our people can get paid, that we can have the ambulances that we need to respond to these, they can be stocked and supplied, the only way that that happens for our citizens is by cost recovery, which is what we're talking about tonight, right?
100% correct. It's a user-based fee, not associated with taxes that are already being paid.
And that's the same thing if I have an accident out on Highway 50 and an engineer comes to give me aid in that accident. No tax that I currently pay covers that fee or that service.
Correct.
And so that's why we need what we're doing tonight.
Correct.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Great, well said.
Thank you, Director. Director Jones.
Thank you, Director Wood. You succinctly and in simple terms explained this whole challenge that we all here at the dais, and I'm sure folks out in the field see every day, that question about billing, et cetera, et cetera. I do have two overall concerns, and I have discussed this with staff earlier. I would like to see a differentiation in first responder fees between a BLS response and an ALS response. And the discussion, the brief discussion we had was, okay, what constitutes BLS, what constitutes ALS? And a heart monitor, how much does that cost? 40 grand, something like that? Okay, that's an advanced life support because that's equipment that you just don't have in your medicine cabinet, all right? So that's a cost, that's ALS. But I still think if someone, I don't say just get checked out, but a blood pressure, pulse, that non-invasive stuff should have a lower responder fee, a BLS versus an ALS. And I understand that part of that decision-making is based on a high level of training for our paramedics, so they can evaluate that nothing really bad is going on. That, I'll just take that as a given, but as a way to distinguish between a $500 bill and whatever else that we might talk about or decide or not, I think we need an additional lower fee when it's just a BLS call and we do not do invasive stuff. And that is a topic for our discussion. And it hasn't been that many, but I get hard questions from my constituents about the $500 fee without the extras. So I would like for us to consider that. A second point is, I just want to make sure, and I haven't heard super amount of details. I'll have to look at your flow chart. I didn't have a chance to look at it earlier. I want to make sure that it's easy for our constituents to challenge, for a better word, to express concern and challenge some of this billing. And I'm concerned about I don't know if it's a dozen people or 1,000 people that would be intimidated by getting all this form and information and go on the website, and how many people have working printers, maybe not everybody. I just want to make sure that our constituents have a simple, easy, and straightforward way to protest, to express concern about a particular billing situation. I don't think there's that many. The numbers that we talked about were pretty low. Now, you mentioned tonight a one-page sheet that's handed to the patient, to the citizen that we contact?
In reference to the sheet was to educate and give our men and women in the field who have these conversations face to face a high level reference so they can explain or understand it better themselves. So through the communication plan Chief Mitchell's putting together, it will include that. So they'll always have some reference at their fingertips to talk through our fees, why they're there, or the common questions they receive. And as you can imagine, when we get more and more feedback from our crews, we'll then refine that probably pretty regularly, I would imagine.
Well, I think that's necessary. One concern was that apparently the number that's on the PCR that the patient receives, it's a number to Whitman.
Correct.
And I'd like, I think it's important, I would like to really know what that checklist is. And I say that in good faith, in a good faith effort, to see what that checklist is that would divert it to, what would we say, non-payment or exemption from payment? I think those are some details that I would like to know for when my friends and neighbors and constituents come up and ask me those very questions, okay? Those are the two major oversight ones, or kind of larger level ones. And as long as I got the mic, there's one little, did we talk about, did we resolve that question about table 7 on page 178? It has to do with overhead costs. And this is really an MBS question, not Whitman, not staff.
We did.
Okay.
And
What'd
thanks
we
to
get?
CFO O'Toole. So when we went back and looked at the study by NBS, those costs on page 178, table 7 you're referencing on the board of directors costs. So those are allocated costs of overhead based on relative division expenses. That number includes the board clerk, election costs of approximately $250,000, and the audit, $50,000.
For those, okay, it says that $827,832 is overhead cost assigned to the board of directors when we're evaluating how much we ask people to pay. And that seemed kind of crazy to me. Do we take that number and divide it by the number of EMS calls we have?
So I can clarify both of those. When we do look at overhead costs, we do look at what we can attribute to the EMS and the fire side. There's a lot of legality there. But overall, what we do is look at the percentage of those call types. And then anything not directly related to the service itself, we call overhead.
Right.
And then we allocate those overhead expenses based on the disproportionate calls between fire and EMS and all that. So that
Well-
is a function of what we're required to do under Prop 26.
Okay, well, I can appreciate the numbers that you just said, the audit, folks' salaries, the clerk. I still don't see where we come up with almost $128,000 as overhead. And I'm only pointing that out is because that makes me wonder about the MBS study. And that happened to jump out at me. I just want folks to realize that, and maybe we can continue discussing this. But I'd like some of that. I would like to have these questions resolved before our second hearing. Sir?
Happy to do it. It is a very deep dive. I will tell you, we went, I'll speak for planning development and finance on this. When we built the operational model and translated it into the financial model that NBS ultimately built, we went through every component of that with a fine-tooth comb, and the logic is sound. I'm happy to go through those details and how we arrived at these conclusions. It's a pretty in-depth conversation. So we're happy to do that offline.
Oh, yes, well, I would appreciate that, at least for that one particular line, because that we're talking about balance, and that just seems nuts to me, really. But now, that was one specific issue I had with some other tables as well. Again, back to the main point, my two main points. I would like to have a discussion differentiating between BLS billing and an ALS call billing, and then the idea of specifics about how to make it easy to appeal for our citizens and for our own knowledge. Thank you.
May I
Thank you,
address
Director.
that present
Please.
cost of the BLS versus ALS? We
Yeah.
also did study that quite extensively, and we had originally gone down through that path in the financial model. What's difficult is taking that and translating it into how it works operationally in the field. So ultimately, when the call comes in, we don't know if it's ALS or BLS.
Right.
And quite often, it's different by the time we get there. So from the operational, providing the highest level of service, we do respond with an ALS level of care. And we don't have a separate and distinct BLS model that we can financially reflect. So ultimately, creating those nuances under the challenges of the law was very difficult, and ultimately why we decided to combine them.
Okay. I can appreciate that one. My concern was on the end part. If the PCR says it was BLS, why can't we go with that? We don't need to distinguish at dispatch. And maybe this, sorry.
May I just jump in really quick, Director Jones?
Sure.
So if I'm not mistaken, the fee study says we can charge from 0 to the number. We're collecting at less than 30%. So to Director Jones's concerns, we don't have to collect. You have a process in place if there is that type of concern from a constituent to not collect. And even if we adopt the ordinance, it doesn't mean we will then implement collection of, right? Am I correct? Okay. I know that doesn't necessarily answer your question, but there are processes in place to allow us to move forward with an ordinance, but not necessarily collect against it, right? Okay. And it sounds like they've taken into consideration ALS and BLS, but it was just operationally it was difficult to really get to that in the field.
And with our ALS level of care, correct, yeah. And what we did specifically to address that as staff to make that recommendation is improve the transparency and also make sure that our policies and procedures go in deeper to allow more depth to happen there versus doing it on that other end of the very difficult things that Jeff is saying. So that's how we are recommending, staff's recommending that pathway. But again, we'll take direction.
Or board discussion. Okay, thank you.
If I can address the second issue just about access to disputes and low income. I went back and we went from the beginning to the end as I showed you on the chart. And so when a citizen does get a bill, on the bottom of there is an 800 number and there's an email and all that. And I hear you loud and clear of those that may not be able to access that or may not have a computer as such. We utilize Whitman's expertise and their partnership to navigate the couple hundred calls and bills that come in a day. We in the division are not equipped to be the first filter, but we work closely with them and they understand our expectations and know our policies and procedures also. And I would say to the extent that we've had elderly citizens that we get a hold of on the phone and they can't scan their bill or send us things, we've driven to people's homes to help them through that process. It's not a regular occurrence, but that's the level of compassion we have and that we're willing to take when appropriate and time sensitive, that we're going to support the community. So I just wanted to share that with you as we evaluate how we do it and how we support and provide compassion.
Thank you, Chief.
Yeah, I'll have some other questions.
Okay.
I'll just do it offline.
We have a few other board members. So Director Gould,
Go ahead.
Director Sailors.
Thank you, President Costa. I just want to say thank you very much. I appreciate all of the hard work that you two and your teams have put into this and your patience working with me. And thank you to Whitman for allowing me to come visit, because this makes me very happy. This has answered everything that I've questioned, and the direction that this is going is definitely making me very happy. Thank you, Chief. Thank you to your whole team. This is exactly what I was hoping where we would go. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Director Gould, and then we'll come to Director Stark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of things. As having a little bit of passion about EMS for just a few weeks now, I'm pretty excited about what's happening tonight as an agency. We're having a deep dive about something we do 80% of the time. That's a pretty cool thing. You know, years ago, this would have never happened. EMS was one of those, I hate to say stepchildren because there might be some in the room or whatever, but you get my point, right? Is that we just didn't want to talk about it. And here we are having an hour-and-a-half conversation about a fee study that I'm fully willing to support today, because I think what we should do is take what Ted just said about why we have even this conversation and memorialize it on our website. It was so clear and so dialed in to let citizens know this is why we have what we have, right? And if you don't like what we have, you should move to parts of the country that are seeing their EMS systems go away. That's the reality of tonight. There are whole parts of our America that when you call 911 and you have a need for a transporting medic, they're not coming. So let's just sink that in for a few minutes. Here, you'll get an ambulance within just minutes at the highest level of care we can provide in the pre-hospital setting. Minutes, not, sorry, call another county, call another area, because we're not coming. We don't have an EMS system anymore. And so when you use the word sustainability, think about what that means. We have to cost recovery. There's not a business I know that could cost recovery at 30% and stay in business. And if you have one, please let me know, because I'm going to their sale. But the reality is that we could not do what we do for the citizens of Sacramento if we didn't have this in place. It would have to go a different direction, which is not good for patient care, right? So I'm ready to go. I'll make a motion. We adopt this resolution tonight because it's one of the most awesome things this organization has talked about, because it's 80% of what we do. And here we're talking about how can we do it even better. Tonight we had a mention of EMS excellence, and that was about a specific individual that was freaking awesome. Now we're talking about EMS excellence into the future. And the only way we're going to be able to do that is to have cost recovery. I'll finish with this. I can't tell you how it warms my heart to have a colleague of mine talk about devices that are now in the Smithsonian. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Director. Director Stark.
First, I want to thank staff for all the great work. I know it's a lot, and it's a lot of education that we have to take. Riffing off of what my esteemed colleague was talking about, I was in Scotland with my kids' rugby team, and I was providing medical. And some of the kids got a concussion. And when we called for an ambulance there, it was going to be 2 hours. So what we had to do is we had to get in a car and drive 45 minutes to get to the hospital, to wait to get the evaluation of the patients. And they were both fine, but you still had to do that. So while I don't like fees either, I clearly recognize the need to recover the fees when appropriate to continue to provide the high quality of EMS services that this district gives, especially in light of the fact that we could be facing the end of funding for MIH if we don't identify additional funding sources. And as Director Rice said, that we may be looking at HR 1 cutting a number of our constituents out of the ability to pay for these things. So it's really important that we provide this. I really like that, and I support the fact that we need to get this policy and procedure passed. But what's really great about the way it's working is that we can still adjust later the fee schedule. We have to get the policy and procedure done. So I fully support that. I also just want to say that I think it's going to be really key that we do a lot more education with the community, with our members, and also to us so that we can spread the word. And then also perhaps with the press and other, community organizations about how the funding structure works, so that they understand that they're not being taken advantage of, so they understand why this is important and essential. So thank you for your work.
Thank you, Director. Any other questions from the board? Okay, so we're going to open public hearing. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment?
Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak under this public hearing? I see we have many on Zoom. If you are wishing to speak, please use the raise your hand feature. No response?
All right, so no public comment. Have we received any written comments?
No, we have not.
Okay, so with that, then we'll go ahead and close public comment, and then I'll turn back to the board for any questions before we ask for action. Any other questions or comments from the board? So, Madam Clerk, just to clarify. Oh, sorry, Director Wood.
I just want to add, just last meeting, we did we approved our budget, and we're taking almost $5 million out of our reserves to fill some holes.
Yes.
We're in a deficit spending situation. Like fees or not, they're a reality. You've seen the graphs that Dave puts together in his presentations. We have a need for fees, and if it were up to me, we'd be recovering a lot more than what we're proposing to recover. But that's, I know I'm in the minority here, but we definitely can't keep running into our reserves to supplement these types of fees and costs and losses.
Thank you, Director. Yeah, very important. Madam Clerk, just to confirm, we have two actions. Am I
Yes.
correct? Okay, so board members, the first action would be to adopt a resolution. The second would be to waive the reading, the full reading, and continue the public hearing. So with that, I will ask on adopt the attached resolution accepting the ambulance and first responders fee study.
So moved.
All right, we have a first and a second. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Yes. Director Sailors.
Aye.
Director Gould.
Aye.
Director Wood.
Aye.
Director Stark.
Aye.
Director Clark.
Aye.
Director Jones.
Aye.
Director Rice.
Aye.
Director Weber.
Aye.
President Costa.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. So the second would be the waive the full reading and continue the public hearing and ordinance to May 28th, 2026.
Yes, and that's ordinance 2026-01.
Thank you.
So move.
Second.
All right, we have a first. Director Wood as a second. Roll call, please.
Director Sailors.
Aye.
Director Gould.
Aye.
Director Wood.
Aye.
Director Stark.
Aye.
Director Clark.
Aye.
Director Jones.
Aye.
Director Rice.
Aye.
Director Weber.
Aye.
President Costa.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. Chiefs, thank you for all your hard work, for the 6 months of work getting us to here. And I will just say that, as we heard today, not just bringing forward an ordinance like this to make sure we're providing the services we should, but the communication piece is going to be key. So thank you for the plan you put together. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
any chance we could have a bladder break for just, say, 5 minutes before we move on? Given my age, I think it's almost a medical necessity.
Yes, we could take a 5-minute break.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Recording
Meeting's
stopped.
paused. All right, let's grab our seats.
Recording in progress.
All right, we're going to call this meeting back to order from our break. All right, so we have one action item, but this item will be discussed in closed session, and we'll come back out after closed session to take action. That takes us to reports. So President's report, it has been a few weeks since we last met, so I thought it would be appropriate just to kind of provide a quick update to the board on our recent cap-to-cap trip. And so, as the board knows and as the public knows, we go back to Washington, D.C. as a large delegation to really advocate on behalf of the region as it relates to issues here with the federal government. And all that went well. The team did a great job organizing us, keeping us focused, and really keep us on task. But what I want to talk about is just the other aspect of being there. So I want to highlight Aaron Castleberry, Kyle McDonald, and Battalion Chief Wilborn. So those staff members, while we were there, really took to heart some of the comments that Local 522 has been making about working together and really leveraging our expertise. And so they organized a meeting with them. We sat down and talked through areas of opportunity, talked about some of our local partners that were going to be there, and how we make sure we get in front of those partners and just hear from them about their issues. And so I want to take the time to just really highlight staff for that forethought, getting us organized, bringing us together. I want to thank Sean Scollard and Trevor Jameson for sitting down and really providing us some feedback. And in that feedback, we were able to meet with some of our partners. They did raise some concerns. And so I'd like to highlight Deputy Chief Mitchell, who, while here, was taking some phone calls and responding to those concerns and providing us with the data necessary to close the loop with our partners. And so I just thought it was important to just highlight the great work that this team does, the opportunity they took, given the feedback from our partners with Local 522, to really come together and keep our partners abreast of what we're doing, and then address those issues as those partners bring them forward. So I just wanted to highlight that for the board, so thank you. And that's end of my report. With that, we'll go to the chief, fire chief's report.
Right on, good evening. I wasn't going to have a report, but I have more of a comment. And I want to acknowledge HR and our members that were doing interviews this week. The last week and a half in these chambers brought me back to really about 2003 to about 2006. We had just shy of 400 people taking the written tests for this organization. 400 people. We haven't seen those numbers for quite a long time. The feedback I got from the members, captain engineers and firefighters on the interview process this week for some of those candidates were exceptional feedback on these are really good, motivated human beings that want to come work for our organization. I don't remember what you said the numbers were that are potential paramedics out of that group. Do you have that number right off the top of your head? That are either in the process or... Gotcha. But out of the 400, we identified that quite a few of them were in the process to be paramedics too, right? So just under 400 people in 2 days, right? 300 the first day and, or just shy of 300 the first day, and the second day, almost 100 people in this room with tables taking the written test. When I walked by and looked in the window, it made me really reflect back to those early 2000 years. So that was my comment for tonight. I wanted to keep it short and not have a report, but I thought it was worthy to share that with the public and all of you.
Thank you, Chief.
That concludes my
Any
comments
questions for the chief? No? Fantastic. Thank you for sharing, Chief. All right. With that, we will go to Firefighters Local 522, Vice President Schollard.
It's always confusing when some of the deputies don't give a report and it doesn't say no report on there, so you never know when
Sorry
it's
about
your turn. So, good evening.
Welcome.
Good evening, President Costa, fellow board members, Chief House, colleagues, members of the public. My name is Sean Schollard, Vice President, Sacramento Area Firefighters Local 522, representing Metro Fire. I'll keep it short too, as Director Oberlander has a message that he'd like to give to some of our members. But yes, traveling has been good, cap to cap. I had a lot of good conversations, good collaborative work. I appreciate the time from all of you that were there to put in as much work as we could and clean up some issues that we had. So fantastic on that. Also been very busy with other travels and CPF convention. And I want to just focus on an acknowledgement. And even though I know that he doesn't want this, and I'm making eye contact with him right now, but I'll share a story, and I'll make it brief. It was probably 12 or 13 years ago. I'm working at Engine 101 with Captain Whaley, and I express a desire for wanting to get into the union. There was a shift rep election that was taking place. Little did I know that I would be running against President Jameson. Then shift rep Jameson had no clue. But that's beside the point. So I expressed this desire to Captain Whaley, who's obviously very good friends with Director Rice. And it seemed like in a matter of an hour, Brian is at Station 101, like, what do you want to know? Okay, I didn't realize that phone call was getting made, but here you are, and here's the man to answer all the questions when it comes to union work and representation. And I remember what you told me is, don't you dare put in for this spot unless you're going to give it your all, because these members' lives depend on you, and many times. And I didn't know what you meant then. And over the course of being in many elected positions since that time, holding a shift rep spot and director on the executive board and now vice president on the executive board, I know exactly what you meant by that. And I appreciate those words of wisdom, as does everybody that's been able to work with you. On behalf of Local 522, thank you for all the dedication and support that you've given to our local. From all agencies within the amalgamation. Thank you to the support you've given Metro Fire for all the years. Thank you for your continued dedication and staying on a board. Little did everybody know at CPF when you said you were retiring, I knew that you weren't, because you're still here giving back as a public servant. You just can't get out of it. So we appreciate you. The state of California appreciates you, all of our members, the 38,000 members that you've done just a tremendous
job representing. We all are indebted to you, so thank you very much. Thank you. And with that, my report is concluded, and I will turn it over to Director Oberlander with an acknowledgement to some of our members.
If I may, really quick.
Yes,
before you
sir,
start.
I knew you would.
Sorry. Yeah. I just, again, I think, we talk a lot about ensuring that we're working together and collaborating. And I really appreciate yourself and others that have said, hey, we're here. Here's what, what we can do. Here's where we should lean in. And thank you for taking the time when we're back in DC to really sit down and work through bringing forward concerns and giving us an opportunity as the directors that were there to really lean in and try to address those issues. And so just, I want to thank you for taking the time to do that. And thank you for the robust conversation and really for staff and you guys working together. So thank you
Of
again.
course, appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, good evening. Board of Directors, I don't like coming up here to speak, but I feel like this is important. This message isn't to you all, this message is to the MMP rank and our brothers and sisters. I want to take the opportunity to speak to them. Many of them wanted to join us here today, and I ask that they stay home and be with their families on their time off and join in on the Zoom link if they can. So I imagine our numbers are a little higher than normal. But I want to speak to that. Recently, a survey was disseminated to the MMP group, and we saw a large response from that group. That survey results has been spread out, and for a month, we have not heard anything. So I want to speak to that group specifically, and I'm sure there'll be some questions following this. So to the MMP group, brothers and sisters, we hear you, we see you, and most importantly, you're not alone. The results of this survey are not just numbers on a page. They are a clear and urgent reflection of what many of you are living every single day. The stress, the exhaustion, the mandatories, the lack of balance, and the feeling that your concerns are not being heard. It is real, and it is unacceptable. Over half of our members are reporting high levels of stress. The overwhelming majority are experiencing emotional exhaustion, burnout, and fatigue. Even more concerning, some of our members are battling intrusive thoughts, and in some cases, thoughts of suicide. This is a red flag. This is not something we can ignore, delay, or hope it fixes itself. We have already lost a brother to this fight, and the fact that others are still struggling in silence, and that there has been no acknowledgement or response from leadership should anger every one of us, and it must also unite us. But while we continue to push for accountability, change, and real solutions from the top, we must take care of what we can control right now, and that is each other. Check in on your partner. Have the hard conversations. If something feels off, don't ignore it, say something. A simple "are you good" can make a world of difference, more difference than you realize. Stand shoulder to shoulder and look out for another, the way we always have. And if you're struggling, say it. Raise your hand, speak up. There's strength in that, not weakness. You're not alone in this, even if it feels that way. There are people here who care deeply about you and are ready to stand with you and fight alongside of you. Our peer support team is here. Your union leadership is here. I am here. My phone number is on 24/7. Whether you need help, guidance, or just someone to listen, we will answer. We will continue to advocate. We will continue to push. And we will not stop fighting for the staffing, support, and leadership this group deserves. But above all else, take care of each other. We stand with you, we hear you, and we will get through this together. Stay safe and stay connected. There's a comment that I heard several times today, and that comment is, "I hear you loud and clear." I hope this message is heard loud and clear. That's it.
I want to thank you for forwarding me that survey. I would ask that you forward that to Marnie so she can forward to each one of the board members.
Absolutely.
It is shocking. So thank you.
Director Stark.
I was going to echo what my peer here said. I think it's essential that the entire board sees that report. And I'd like to have a report from staff as to how we're going to work on resolving that. I'm very excited about the fact that we have 400 people taking the test and that we're going to bring more people in. But I think that it's a bigger issue that we need to be looking at getting more people into the, priming the pump, getting more people to take the test, getting more people to be prepared so that we can provide relief for this issue, but also that we look at other things that we can do with our current staffing to provide relief to this group, because we don't want anybody to how am I trying to say this? We don't want any tragedies. That's correct. So I think this is very important, and we need to address it immediately.
Thank you, Director. Any other questions or comments? Director Rice?
Just real quick, thank you. From September to December, we had 4 active duty California firefighters kill themselves. One of them was just freshly retired. It haunts me to think of the number of families that I've spoken to that lost a husband, a brother, or a sister. I put a video out that basically told my story right after that. I think it's available through CPF or YouTube. My phone number's on there. I still check that number. Suicide can be a very planned event. It can just manifest in your own brain and circle and circle and circle, and you make your plan. It can also be an event that is very impulsive. We just need people to put those bags down just for 10 minutes. Choose to live. Don't choose the alternative, because like watch the video. I've been there. And I know when my day comes, I just know in my heart that every person that we've lost to suicide, their last thought was, I shouldn't have done this. It was mine. So, Chief, we need to get on this. I don't know, this is a first for me, but we need to get on this. And I'll leave it at that.
Agreed.
Thank you. I know it takes a lot to come here and share, but it's important that you do. So thank you for taking the time to share and providing that message. I don't know if you have a thought, an answer, solution, but I'm going to ask, you brought this to us today. What can the board do? What support do you need? Or do you want to take some time to give it some
I think
thought?
more demand for action. I think you've heard us stress some of the struggles over the past couple of years, staffing challenges, deployments challenges. Not enough attention or emphasis or immediate action has happened, and that develops to where we're here today. We're seeing day-to-day Band-Aids, if you will, to keep things trying to operate, but there's no long-term vision in my mind. And if you talk to the membership, we're clueless as to the direction of the agency and what's going on and what's going to get us out of this hole. There hasn't been any communication to the membership. This survey came out and it's been out for a month. We haven't heard anything. These members just need to be spoken to. They need to know that there's an end and there's things being put in place to alleviate this, and that they're not alone and they're not just going to have to wear it.
Thank you. So I just to clarify really quick. So there was a survey and there's been no response to that survey.
Correct.
Is what you're saying. Okay. So I think immediate action would be to provide some response back. Clearly you're hearing from the board that this is a serious issue. We don't take it lightly. I think the second would be, do we have another labor management meeting scheduled? And if not, we probably should, because I think this is one of those conversations we probably should have. So I know Chief will take the first action, and then I think we need to work with you guys on the second. And it's not just one meeting, it's probably going to be multiple meetings to try to get to a solution. So,
Yeah, and to answer your question, President Costa, we don't have another labor management on the books right now. I agree, it's something that we can't overlook and that we need to have further discussion on. To shed light on the issue is, there needs to be more of a sense of urgency when we have members at least be honest about the situation that they're in. I mean, we asked, right? Whether or not everybody was on the same page about how that came out, that doesn't matter. What matters is that we had an overwhelming amount of response and that some of them were honest enough to say, this is how I feel. And the fact that they are willing to say that, hoping somebody sees it, and then get no response, what does that say to that person? What does that say to the members that were honest about the situation that they were in? Do they feel supported? Do they have confidence in even the resources, right? I mean, there's a lot of questions out there. The sense of urgency needs to be more. 158 vacancies in the last 17 days for that group. Let's put that into perspective. So it's not like the workload's going away. We had discussions in labor management of how to address some of that workload, right? And I know EMS is working diligently on solutions, options, right? But these are short-term solutions for a long-term problem. Will it give relief? Yes. We need to move faster because just one member is too many when they say, I'm on the verge of committing suicide. And a lot of it is associated to the burnout and the work environment that I'm facing. One is too many.
Director Wood.
Today about the Health and Wellness Division and the work that they have, the resources they have. What interaction has been going on between that interaction and this group?
I'm not here to cast stones, and Chief Peck, don't take this the wrong way. I'm shocked that this was not brought up this evening. Because it came out of Health and Wellness. That's the division that the survey came out of. And regardless of whether or not you knew about it, it came out. Right? So the results are real. These aren't manufactured. These results happened. Like, we have to be honest with each other. Everybody in this room needs to be honest, and regardless of whether or not that's survey, I'm glad it did. I'm glad it did. And I hope we do something and we take it serious. That's our responsibility.
Any other questions? Thank you. I know this isn't a part where you take immediate action, but can someone from one of you two, we can connect, and then Chief, we can connect, and then we can figure out the next steps, and then we report back to the board? Okay. So following the meeting, do you mind if we just take a sidebar really quick just to make sure we have something on calendar so we can address the issue right away to the best of our ability? There's going to be short-term fixes, and then we can report back to the board what that looks like. Does that work for you guys?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you again for speaking up. Any other questions from the board? Okay. Thank you again. And thank you, Chief. All right, we'll go next to committee delegate reports. Can be hard to follow. So first, I'll just highlight for the board. So we had 3 items come back to the executive committee today. One on the strategic plan update, one on one of the board goals in the strategic plan, so one of those projects, and that was around the labor management communication piece, so timely. And then the next was around the current executive committee, the current board policy around appointments. So I'll start with that one. So Director Weber had asked, what is that current policy? Staff did provide some feedback on the current policies at the end of the year. We could nominate and support the executive committee in all 3 positions, And then is there an option to do something different than that? And those options do exist. So we did ask staff just to clarify that and bring it back to the board for board discussion. The second was on the board strategic plan goal around labor management communications. So Deputy Chief Mitchell talked about the last meeting, talked about the process of ensuring in labor management that we are providing an agenda ahead of time. That was part of the feedback we got. I think the key here, and I think I believe will help in this process moving forward on communication, is this capturing of discussions. So there was 5 components to that. The first being the item itself. So discussing the item with our partners and confirming on the agenda that's what's going to be discussed. The requested action associated with that policy or discussion item. Who's the responsible party? I think that'll be helpful for the board, just to know that we've identified an issue, we've discussed that issue, and there is a responsible party on both sides to run that issue to ground. The next being the outcome or next steps. Again, important, I think, for us as we're hearing a lot of feedback. And then ultimately a status of these items. So I want to thank Deputy Chief Mitchell for leaning in on this. I know this is a big priority of the board. He's done a lot to bring that communication piece together and really document it and then bring it back for the board for consideration. The last item was around the strategic plan, so we got an update of where that stands. And I think as we discussed last time, we had a session with the board. We came up with some feedback. Staff has then gone back and put together a framework, and then we came forward with our current consultant, ICS. And so what they've done is a very extensive, and they try to report it out in about 10 minutes, so there's more to do. But around their philosophy on the strategic plan, some of the items that they see, and so they've laid out, and we'll ask staff to make sure they get this draft just so for full board view, kind of where we stand and where we're going. So they've talked a lot about kind of the external environment. So one being service demand, and that's growing fast. I think we've all discussed that a lot. The types of calls that we're getting and the shifting ways we're seeing that. So we've talked a little bit about Folsom earlier. Really the fiscal environment that we're in, right? So those are some of the things that they've highlighted and we'll discuss further in the strategic plan. And then they talked about, the standard of cover, Measure O, and really that putting us in a strong position. But we do have some issues like the capital deficit gap, the CIP stuff, culture and the organizational cohesiveness. I think we continue to hear that. So I'll just say they've captured a lot of what we've been talking about. Staff has put together a great framework for them to work from. And they've talked about coming back in the next month with kind of the foundational development and then the formal content for us to then start providing more feedback and acting on. I'll say one key thing they developed and the executive committee leaned in on was kind of the problem. And so we can't really have a good strategic plan until we identify the problem first. There's a lot here, but I'll just say, clearly communication and the rapid planning decision-making that we need to do. The different service and risk environment we find ourselves in. And then really the intersection of the set of problems that compound each other. And so really what they said is we can't deal with problems in isolation. We really need to take the problems as a whole. And I think we're hearing a lot about some gaps that we need to really pay attention to and lean in on. And so what they're gonna try to get us to is what's the next 5 years, but really what's the next 25 years, right? And then not taking them as one piece, but as a whole. So there's more to come on the strategic plan and more for us to lean in and provide feedback on. And I wanna thank Jeff Fry and team for really leaning in. They're taking the feedback. They're coming back to make sure we're going in the right direction. So thank you, Jeff and team. And I'll say another issue I think what the board just needs to be prepared for and ready to support on is the staffing component associated with that. There's only so many staff members, there's only so much time. And so it'll be key for us to make sure we're focused on what we really think the goals are and where we really need staff to lean in on. So with that, that's the end of the executive committee report. Any questions or comments? All right. Thank you. Next we'll go to Communications Center JPA, Deputy Chief Farica.
Good evening, President Acosta, directors, Chief House, colleagues, and guests. Joe Furica, Deputy Chief of Administration, and your representative for the Comm Center JPA Board. The JPA Board last met on April 28th. During that meeting, we were briefed on the status of the new CAD upgrade that's going on over at Dispatch. Right now, the first component of that's new mapping, and it's the first step in what will be the AVL upgrade or automatic vehicle locating, which will allow an enhancement to how dispatching is done today by sending the closest resource based on a physical location as opposed to predetermined run zones. So that project's moving forward. The other thing is they just had a group of dispatch recruits, 7 of them that graduated from the academy, and they've started their pod training. Other than that, there was no other reportable action, and the next meeting is Tuesday, May 26th at 9 o'clock.
All right. Thank you,
The
Chief.
report.
Any questions?
No, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to Finance and Audit Committee. Director Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. The next Finance and Audit Committee meeting is May 28th, 5:30 in these chambers. Come one, come all.
All right. Thank you, Director. Director Clark, Policy Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Policy Committee met today. Chief Human Resources Officer Melissa Maddox brought board policy. Skipped a number on fraud, theft, and corruption policy. It was approved by the committee, and with the addition of adding the complaint line information to the policy to refer to the full board. Our next meeting will be June 11th, and if we don't have any other questions, that's the end of my report.
All right. Thank you, Director. Any questions? All right. Thank you, Director. All right. With that, it brings us to board member questions and comments. Director Sailors.
I'm contained, thank you.
Thank you. Director Gould.
No comment.
Thank you. Director Wood.
No comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Jones.
Just for a small little balance, I'd like to say thank you to the Wynn family for their work that they did, and a long time ago we acknowledged them. I just want to re-acknowledge them. And Chief Peck, I love that banner. Thanks. That's all, thanks.
Thank you, Director Jones. Director Stark.
I have a few items, but I would be remiss if I didn't start out by saying it's kind of emotional. I want to thank Brian. I was lucky enough to go to the CPF convention and got to see him retire. It's pretty moving. It was moving for me because I got to work with him. I have to tell you, the first time that we interacted, he tore me apart. And little did I know what a great leader he was. I didn't know he was. We got a phone call, crossed some wires. He just destroyed me. But then I ended up working for him. And it was really a privilege working for him at the CPF to see what an outstanding leader he was. And I'm not just talking about for the labor, but also for the citizens of the state. The Paradise Fire and the resources, PTSI, so many things. That's okay. I didn't mean to, excuse me, get off on a tangent, but I've really been profoundly impressed with you. Moving on. I want to thank the staff for Cap to Cap. It was an outstanding event and well supported. You all did a great job. It was a wonderful opportunity to interact with not only the labor union and our elected officials, but other elected officials and folks at different levels of government. And to see what they're doing, to share what we're doing here, and to create connections that are going to be very helpful and profound in us moving forward. So that was really a good thing, and I really appreciate it. I also, with Director Clark, had the opportunity to go to Station 23, where we did I guess you call it a charade, where we worked with the firefighters to talk to them about what they needed and what their concerns were about the new fire station. Aaron did a great job of bringing the firefighters together with the design team so that we could go through step by step what would work, what didn't, what we can help them with, what can't be done and why. It was a really great interaction. I think it was very important. And I know that Aaron is going to be bringing us an update on the other 3 projects, or probably all 4 projects actually, at our next meeting. So I think that was an outstanding job, and I think that we just need to keep moving on. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Director Rice?
Just real quick, through the chair, could I request probably a more fuller report on the MIH unit and units and what we're going through, and it looks like we may possibly be losing some county funding that could either significantly impact or end that program. If I know I've talked to Chief Mitchell a little bit, but I'd like to indulge the chair, and then also as a board member, I would be highly motivated to work with staff to try to find that money both at the county level and the state level if I could
Yes,
have your
please.
blessing.
Yes, please. Yes, thank you. Deputy Chief Mitchell.
Thank you, President Costa, and thank you for the question, Director Rice. Yeah, so in the MIH world, we talked about the right resource and what that impact has been for our mobile integrated health unit that's been deployed for a number of years now and done some really, really great work. It's from the inception, it has been completely grant funded or contract funded. There has not been an opportunity for us to cost recover, and that fact still remains today. The EMS ordinance and the fee schedule that were brought forward tonight incorporates MIH fees cost recovery. However, legislation, SB 1180, brought forth our ability to ask for that. The issue that we're experiencing right now is the managed healthcare and the recovery piece on the back end of how insurance can actually pay for that. There are some things out on the horizon. The CARE Act would authorize CMS to do some pilot programs through Medicare to allow for cost recovery in the MIH world for that. Behavioral health, substance abuse support, social service support, transport to alternative destination. But right now that it's a bit off. So to your point and your question, yeah, one of the units, we have 2 deployed right now. One of those units, because of the grant funding being used up, and we've rolled it out there, utilized the grant funding, is going to sunset, and we're going to have expended those funds as of June 1st. So we're going to go from 2 units down to 1 unit. Again, the intent was through the funds we were provided from the county and the ARPA grants and things that we've had support from our county elected officials to do, was to expand it, which we did, and we've utilized those funds. There's not another piece coming for that. The other side of it is we're moving into this next few months, the over 6-7 months, and through the end of the year, is we still have some county contract available, $575,000, to continue to provide MIH services through about December, based off of our current rate of usage of those funds to facilitate that deployment of that resource in the community. At that point, pending any other work that we're able to do, and we are doing work, don't get us wrong, we're trying to find those ways to bridge the gap and continue that funding, that unit will be shut down. But we are working diligently to find other opportunities, and what I think Director Rice is mentioning here, and we've had some discussions about what this is going to look like. We need to shake the tree hard because we need to keep this resource out there.
Yep, I agree.
So,
Director Rice?
I'm not going to belabor it. A good, solid report, and then I do think at some point we're going to need to go public with this, and not just at our board meetings. I think this is worthy of a press conference here at headquarters to explain to the public what would be going away when this money leaves. This is a health and human services issue. This is a county issue. This is a kind of issue that counties fund. This is above and beyond, you could say, the call of Metro Fire and EMS, because this is very much a mental health response. But having said that, it reduces the number of 911 calls our members go on. And the thing that really touches me on this is that this organization is proactive. They don't find these folks that are unhoused or living in that community via 911. These units are proactive. They go. I've seen them in my neighborhood at Watt and Auburn and Watt and Whitney on the corner, taking care of and getting people either into the CARE Act or enrolled or transported or into treatment. The county needs to foot the bill for this. I have played phone tag with Supervisor Desmond. He is very supportive of it, but he also mentioned HR 1, and HR 1 is going to impact the county greatly. We need to push our issue, and we need to get the county to fund both of these units, not only these, but the county needs to fund the units that are in Consumnes and potentially coming to the city of Sacramento, because this is a service that alleviates ED crowding. It puts people to the proper care. It takes very stressful calls off our members on the emergency response units. And if we don't do this, nobody's going to do it. And I would say the next move would be, we're fire and EMS. We're not fire, EMS, and mental health. The county needs to come up with the money, and they have a partner in a public service agency with sworn public safety providers. We are the right group to do this with, not a nonprofit, not degrading nonprofits and the work that they do, but this is pre-hospital, in the streets, getting people connected. So we need to start putting the pressure on the county. Thank you. I'll shut up.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. Thank you. Thank you, Director Rice. And I think this is a prime example of opportunities for the work we're doing to leverage the expertise of the board. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for offering and leaning in, because it is something that the board has set up as a priority, and we need to be focused on it. So thank you. Thank you. Director Weber.
I have no comments, thank you.
Right, thank you. So I just have a few comments. I know it's been a long night, so bear with me. I just want to thank the board for all your efforts, all your focus tonight. And it was a long meeting. There was a lot on the agenda. There was a lot of stuff we needed to lean in on and really support the staff on. So I just want to thank you for all of that. And as part of that, we get there's a lot of great work that's happening here. And clearly there's a lot of gaps. And there are still areas of opportunity. So I want to thank 522 for leaning in, and all the staff that bring forward gaps in areas of opportunity. And I think, I've said this before, we can't make good decisions without information. So that information doesn't get to us without people leaning in and providing it. So I just want to thank everyone for doing that. And with that, I do think we have some serious things that we really need to lean in on and address. But it's going to take all of us to come to the table with solutions and be okay with some of the solutions not working. And I think the only way we're going to get there is we're going to try them, we're going to fail, we're going to learn, we're going to pivot and try again. So I would like to challenge all of us to think through it that way. There's no right answer, and sometimes the short-term solution is important to get us to a long-term, but we have to try and fail. So I'm willing to do that. I know the board is too, and so I just want to challenge the staff. Let's think about it. Let's challenge each other. Let's find solutions. Let's lean in and go from there. So thank you for the opportunity to say that. And with that, again, thank you for all your hard work and everything you do. We're going to go ahead and close for closed session.
Recording stopped.
We're going to open.
Recording in progress.
All right, we're back from closed session. General Counsel, can you report out on closed session?
Yes, thank you, President Acosta. The board met in closed session pursuant to the closed session agenda. Item number 1, conference with labor negotiator. The board met with its designated district negotiator regarding the employee organizations that are listed in the agenda. No reportable action was taken. On item number 2, workers' compensation settlement authority for employee Jason Watts. The board voted 9-0 to provide authority to effectuate a settlement of that workers' compensation claim. Item number 3, conference with legal counsel. The board considered the claim filed pursuant to Government Code Section 910, filed by Priscilla Van Dyke. The board voted 9-0 to give authority to the board clerk to return the claim as untimely under the pertinent provisions of the California Government Code. With respect to item number 4, the industrial disability retirement matters concerning Brian Smith. That matter will be taken up in open session. No reportable action was taken in closed session on that particular issue or that particular matter. Number 5, conference with legal counsel concerning activities at Station 106. No reportable action was taken. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So that takes us to our action item. Adopt a resolution for industrial disability retirement for firefighter Brian Smith.
I would like to make a motion to defer that pending further medical evaluation.
So we have a motion on the table to defer the action. And we have a second. All right. Roll call, please.
Director Sailors.
Aye.
Director Gould.
Aye.
Director Wood.
Aye.
Director Stark.
Aye.
Director Clark. Director Jones.
Aye.
Director Rice.
Aye.
Director Weber.
Aye.
President Costa.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes to defer.
Thank you. So that brings us to the end of the meeting. Our next meeting is scheduled for May 28th. Meeting adjourned.
Recording stopped.